Love your show, Jody Mack. Love your show. It's not comparable. There is nobody even close.
What up, Jody Mack? What up?
I've got 4 hours to chat you up about everything going on in the world of sports.
I'll be listening.
Here's Jody Mack.
Jody Mack, got a shorty show coming your way. Next 2 hours, you and I right here on CBS Sports Radio. And I enjoy doing it 2 hours with Zach. Have fun. We can pimp each other a little bit, give each other a hard time. He does a great job. I just kind of prop him up for the last 2 hours. 8 hours every single week. I tip my hat to him. So it's fun hanging with Zach for 2 hours, and it's fun hanging with you guys for 2 hours because my little shorty show that I do, I'll give you some reads from the very busy day in the National Football League. May make a college point or two, baseball point or two. We can kind of sneak back in the other sports over these 2 hours, but it'll be heavy-handed football for the most part. I know it, you know it, but you'll also help to dictate it by telling me what is moving the needle for you in the world of sports. Probably National Football League, but if you do want to get back up, you didn't get a college football point. Shoot, when I checked out last night, which was 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock West Coast time, the Colorado State game wasn't over yet. That does not happen often. And if it's a West Coast game, then it's usually on CBS Sports Network or FS2, not usually on the mothership of ESPN, but that game took so long that it dragged into the 2 o'clock hour here on the East Coast, and Colorado, of course, came away with a win. A good come-from-behind win, a gut check win, but a game in which they were favored by, I believe it was 23 points, to have to go to overtime to be able to win it. We've already seen the fact that there's a little blowback, that they fell from number 18 in the polls to number 19, despite getting their third straight win and being undefeated. They did come down one notch. So if you do want to do some college football, I'm not going to turn anybody away who wants to get on and talk college football with me. Here's how we do it. My 2 hours, we're going to work on a guest, see if we can come up with someone who is at one of the key 1 o'clock games, and we'll punch them up at the top of hour number 2. But hour number 1 is all about you guys on my telephone lines. How'd your team do today? Are you overjoyed with the start of your squad? Are you perplexed as to why your team is not getting out of the gate quickly? Oh, I don't know, say like the Bengals at 0-2. But as Zach and I both pointed out, the Bengals were 0-2 last year, and they found themselves in the AFC Championship game, tied late in that one. If not for Harrison Butker field goal, they could have gone back to the Super Bowl for consecutive seasons. So I would not write the Cincinnati Bengals off, but not the way you want to start. I saw a stat. Now, don't hold me to this. I think I'm pretty accurate on it, but I'm not 100% sure. Out of the last 127 teams that started the season 0-2, only 12 of them have made the playoffs. So less than 10% of the teams that start the season 0-2 actually qualify for postseason play. 10% is better than 0, but it's not a massive number. 9 and change percent is not a massive number, but the Bengals are tempting fate for the second consecutive year. So that's what I do when I come on with my shorty show. I throw the phones open ASAP. 855-212-4227 for you to be able to chime in on your squad. Like I said, if you want to go college football, we can. Baseball, Orioles. I see my buddy Gary is up already from Jacksonville, big Oriole fan. They lost the first 2 games of the series against the Rays, even in the standings after having opened up a pretty good lead. Of course, the Rays ran out to that unbelievable lead at the start of the year. They let the Rays back in. They lost a couple games before the Rays series. Then they lost the first 2 games of the Rays series, 4 consecutive in the loss column for the Orioles. Came up with a big win last night and followed that with an extra inning win today. So they're now back up 2 games over Tampa. No more games between those 2 teams. And with a win, they only needed 1 out of the 4. They got 2 out of the 4 in the series. They locked up the tiebreaker between those 2 teams. So if they finish in a tie, the Orioles would win the AL East. So, yeah, there's a couple baseball nuggets that we can put in there. Only got 2 hours to do it, and I do take my guidance from you guys at at 855-212-4227. All right, today's day in the National Football League. A couple of teams that we got to give props to right off the bat. Probably the biggest of which is the New York Giants. We all know that they got their tails kicked by the Cowboys opening night 40-0. Then they were down against the Cardinals today, big, early, 20-0. So when they go into half, Brian Daboll has to face his team, and they've been outscored to this point in a game and a half, 60-0. 40-0 last week against the Cowboys, 20-0 at half against the Cardinals. And they come out and put up a 31 spot in the second half. And they hold the Cardinals to just a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So they outscore the Cardinals in the second half, 31-8. Big game out of Daniel Jones, who struggled in the first half, played very well in the second half, made a couple of plays with his arm, couple of plays with his legs. May end up being a bit of a costly win for the Giants. Saquon Barkley left the game late in the fourth quarter. Seemed to be a lot of pain in the sideline. Both myself and my producer, Manny Rod, will keep an eye on the information cycle and see if anybody's got any immediate updates on social media as to Barkley's condition. As Zach pointed out in Eye on Football, Giants not even coming back to New York to celebrate. Probably don't celebrate a 1-1 start, but when you're down 20-0 and you'd been outscored 60-0 in the first quarter and a half of your game and a half of your season, I guess you can at least smile in the locker room. They should be doing that. But Saquon Barkley might not because he left the field and looked like he was in a pretty good amount of pain. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you. But a nod to the New York Giants for getting their first victory of the year in major come-from-behind fashion. Man, the Arizona Cardinals are bad, but that's another story. I got a Cardinal fan who wants to check in and bemoan where his team is off to start the season. You didn't see that one coming? All right. So give the Giants the props. The Washington Commanders, also trailing big today against the Denver Broncos, rallied. I am well on record as a not big Sam Howell fan. I got to give Sam Howell some credit here. 27 for 39, 2 touchdowns. Again, trailing 21-3 midway through the second quarter. They get a couple of scores before half to get it to 21-14, come out immediately tired early in the third, and then open up a lead. But sure enough, the Broncos get a field goal with 1:50 to play, get a stop, get the ball back. And on the final play of regulation, Russell Wilson just throws a pop-up from midfield down, didn't even reach the goal. You got to be able to get it into the end zone. And Russell Wilson, I always thought, was one of the better deep ball throwers. He didn't even get it into the end. 4 guys tip at it at about the 4-yard line, and sure enough, it falls into the hands of Williams, the receiver for the Broncos. So he takes it in, I think, was it Johnson? Johnson made the catch in the end zone, 50-yard touchdown grab. So that gets it to within a 2-point game, but then on the 2-point attempt, no time left, but always time to go for an extra point or 2, and that's what they did because that's what they needed to tie the game. Incomplete. Yes, well contested. Do I think the D-back got there slightly before the ball did? Yes. But that's the way they're calling it in the National Football League this year. They're giving defensive backs a chance to play a little bit more physical and try and do the timing thing. So be on the lookout for that for the games going forward. But a come-from-behind win for the Giants, a come-from-behind win for the Washington Commanders. So take a quick peek at the standings. And I know we've got a Sunday night game yet to go. And not one, but 2 Monday night games yet to go, so the standings are a little incomplete. But some teams have already played both of their first 2 games. How about the NFC East? Last year, I believe that they were the only division that got 3 teams in the playoffs, the divisional champion, the Eagles, and both the Cowboys and the Giants via the wild card route. I know that for a fact they were the only division that had 3 teams that not only made the playoffs, but won in the playoffs because the Giants beat Minnesota in Minnesota and the Cowboys won at home over Tampa Bay. So, they were, you can make an argument, the best division in football last year. they might be that again this year. So far, 8 games played within the division. The NFC East is 7-1. The only loss was a game they had to lose because it was 2 NFC East teams playing each other. The Cowboys put the beat down on the Giants 40-0, but they couldn't possibly be 8-0 because there was already one divisional matchup between the two teams. Eagles are 2-0, Cowboys are 2-0, Commanders are 2-0, and the Giants, with their come-from-behind victory, are 1-1. So kudos to the NFC East. Yes, Zach and I talked about the late game between the 49ers and the Rams. Rams kick a field goal on the last play of the game. They're down 30-20. They get to within field goal range. There's only 4 seconds left. I guess you can argue that they're banking on the field goal only taking 3 seconds, and then you get the onside kick, and you can bang it off a guy's helmet, recover it, and take it in for the end. Well, it took the full 4 seconds for them to kick the field goal, so all it did was cut the deficit from 10-7. For those of you who care about the spread on the game, the 49ers were either a 7.5 or a 7-point favorite. I played it where it was only 7, so that ended up being a push for me. But the 49ers also out to a 2-0 start. The Rams at home in a stadium that was just as much filled with 49er fans as it was Ram fans fall to 1-1. How about the undefeated Tampa Bay? Oh, I knew I was going to hear from Todd. It'll be fun because I'm going to let Todd talk about his Bucks getting out to 2-0 start and Baker Mayfield playing pretty damn well both of the first 2 games. And Mike Evans, not only is he a phenomenal player, he's not happy with his contract. He's not allowing it to affect his play on the field. That's a pretty impressive win for Tampa. Yeah, Chicago's not very good, but for the Bucks to get out 2-0 when I thought they could be a 5 or 6 win team, pretty damn good way to start. Todd's going to also have to answer a question about his Rays not being able to get the job done facing the Orioles. So when I get to Todd from Tampa, we'll talk about both his football team and his baseball team. But his football team got a good win today. I all off-season talked up the Seattle Seahawks, that I thought they were being a little undersold during this offseason, that the Detroit Lions, off their win last week of the season, keeping the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs, actually got a little bit more love than Seattle, who made the playoffs. They actually made the play. They shut Detroit out in the last week of the season when they won, kept the Lions out. They couldn't get in, but they went ahead and beat the Packers and kept them out of the playoffs too. I thought Seattle actually added more talent via the draft this past offseason. So I had them rated ahead of Detroit in the NFC coming into the season. And sure enough, the two teams are playing week number 1. And the Lions, of course, with that big opening Thursday night win against the Chiefs, Seattle losing at home to the Rams. If you believe that desperation is possible in week 2 in the National Football League, I know it's a bit of a stretch, but don't kid yourself. The players know exactly what happened with every other team in the National Football League. They sure as heck know what happened with them. Lions riding a little high off the Chief win. Seahawks a little bit more desperate because of the loss to the Rams. Great game, tied late. Detroit rallies, gets it tied, but then Seattle drives down the field, sticks it into the end zone in overtime, and wins on a walk-off touchdown, 37-31. So the Seahawks and the Lions both at 1-1. And yeah, the third best team in the NFC, at least after 2 weeks, is the Dallas Cowboys, because not only did they beat the Giants up 40-0 last week, today they get the Zach Wilson-led Jets into their stadium. And Zach Wilson is just not an NFL quarterback. Sorry. Sometimes you get to say, I told you so, and I'll do that with Zach Wilson. Didn't like the pick when the Jets made it. You know, I'm a Jet fan, so I was praying that I was hoping I was wrong. I thought he was so blatantly overrated coming into the draft as the number 2 pick. And he has 2 years at the helm of the Jets. They do absolutely nothing. They go out to get Aaron Rodgers. They put all their eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket, and all those eggs break 4 plays into the season. So it's back. Zach is back all right. I thought that was a return on the Gelb show, but I guess it's also the return of Zach Wilson as the Jet quarterback. 12 of 27, 170 yards, one of which was a nice pass, really nice pass. Garrett Wilson made a great catch, run after catch, took it about 40 yards. So if you subtract the 68 yards that he had on the one play, and I don't do that often because I think it's unfair. The play happened. It's not like you can wipe it from reality. It did happen, but you can put it in a specific context. Minus that 68 yards, Zach Wilson would have thrown for 102 today. Not good. And he had the one touchdown I mentioned. And not one, not two, but 3 interceptions for Zach Wilson. And one, which is, and I'm just sounding like a whiny Jet fan, and I guess I should apologize for it in advance, but I'm sorry, 50 years of suffering will do this to you. There was no Jet in the picture. I'm sitting at home watching it, doing a show with Zach Elb, and I see the pass, and there is no Jet anywhere to be seen in the camera shot of the pass he threw to the Dallas defender. And he basically throws one of those a game. You go up, the defender makes a good play, tips the ball gets hit the line of scrimmage, goes up in the air. That is an interception you can live with. When you throw the ball directly to the other team, that is something you can't live with. Zach Wilson's quarterback ranking 38.1 today. If the Jets still believe that they can be a playoff team, and kudos, tip of the cap to the Cowboys offense, I believe that the Jets have a top 5 defense. Last night here on CBS Sports Radio, I said I think they have the best defense in the National Football League. A couple of short fields because of Zach Wilson turnovers, but still, the Cowboys moved it effectively enough. Prescott throws for 255. CeeDee Lamb, the Jets secondary is supposed to be as good as any in the National Football League. 11 receptions on 13 targets for 143 yards. What happened, Jets secondary? You explain it to me. So the Cowboys certainly have stamped themselves right there below the Eagles and the 49ers as the 3 best teams in the NFC. I said all off season, it's Philly, it's San Francisco, then there's the drop-off. Others were saying it's Philly, it's San Francisco, it's Dallas, all very close. Then comes the drop-off. Off the first 2 weeks of the season, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. Those are the top 3 teams in the NFC. We'll do some more AFC stuff when I come back, and I will get the phones officially open, 855-212-4227. You know my Twitter's open, right? Now, this is a shorty show, usually on Saturday nights and Sundays when I'm not coming in after Zach does his 8-hour marathon. I get the full 4 hours, and I get a bunch of a goodly number of tweets over a 4-hour show. I gave an estimate last night at about on a busy night I'll get 50, maybe 55 tweets. On a slow night, like last night wasn't competing against Colorado. I think a lot of people were watching that game on ESPN. So I only had about 35 tweets. Had a good winner, but only about 35 tweets. Now we only got 2 hours. So if you are gunning for the award that we give out to the best tweet sent to yours truly, this is a night where you can actually do it because the competition voluminously will not be as much. I just won't get as many tweets because we only got 2 hours. So if you've got something insightful to say from the week in the NFL, a little baseball talk or college stuff, send it directly to me at Jody McMahon, JodyMacMacman. I will read every tweet, I will rate every tweet, and I will rank every tweet. Ranking means one has to sit atop the pile. When I've determined that, I will call it Mac Daddy Tweet of the Day. Best tweet that I get over the shorty show that we've got going. You can start getting your tweets in now. All right, come back. Get the phones cranked, 855-212-4227. It is a shorty show, Sunday night get-together. Jody Mack here with you on CBS Sports Radio.
Did you know that Cumberland Farms actually invented coffee? Well, genius, that's the sort of thing you might believe when you forget your morning cup. Don't forget, Cumby's coffee, any size, just $1.29.
Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
You can forget your password or your keys. You can even forget your kids.
Dad?
But one thing you don't forget is delicious Cumberland Farms coffee.
Just $1.29. Any size, any way you like it. Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
This is Zach Gelb, and every weekday from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 7 Pacific, you can call, tweet, and listen to me as we break it all down on CBS Sports Radio.
Turns. Here's Jody Mack.
Sunday Shorty Show here on CBS Sports Radio. Jody Mack sticking around for a 2-hour foray. The Sunday Night Football game underway. I'll keep an eye on that one for you. Patriots and Dolphins up in New England tonight. I think the Dolphins walk away with a win, but what do I know? Here's one thing I do know. I do know I'm going to go to the phones here in a second, 855-212-4227. And here's something else I know about me, and I'm just sharing it with you, and maybe you will feel the same. I very rarely do this. I don't tell people who to follow via social media. I asked you if you like to follow me at Jody McMahon, JodyMacMan, because then you can tweet at me and you can be in running for the Mac Daddy Tweet of the Day. Thank you very much, Manny. You make your own call on who the heck you want to follow on Twitter. I'm not going to tell you, but there is one. I guess it's a person. It might be people. I don't know how many people are involved in this. It's a Twitter account or an X account, whatever you want to call it, that I stumbled onto 2 months ago, 3 months ago, somewhere thereabouts. If you've never seen it before, it's Art But Make It Sports is the name of the account. And the Twitter handle is at Art But Sports. And it's a compilation of what I assume are fairly famous. I'll be truthful with you. I wasn't an art major. I can't draw or paint to save my life. I failed art when I was in school. Every single just terrible. I have no hand whatsoever. But I can appreciate nice art. And they find great pieces of art, and they compare them to pictures taken at sporting events, plays, guys just sitting there and the like. And some of these likenesses are unbelievable. It's got to be more than just one person doing this. It has to be a whole group of individuals. But some of them are so uncannily similar. It's a account that I followed. And I probably repost their tweets as much as I tweet myself that these are that good. Art But Make It Sports at Art But Sports. Well, I just retweeted another one. So if you want to follow me, you don't want to follow them, you can. If you're already a follower of mine, you can go and see the last thing I put up, which is a repost of a picture of a painting called Anxiety by Edvard Munch from 1894. And it's a picture of what looks like a woman, because she's got lengthy hair, but it could be a guy with long hair. And she's got a quasi-halo look to her because there's a glowing yellow atop her head. And she's got both hands joined together underneath her chin. And they've got a picture of the New York Jet quarterback, Zach Wilson, who's got that silly headband that he always wears that kind of looks like the halo on the pictures. And he's got his hands joined together, not quite under his chin, sitting on his helmet, looking completely lost, staring out onto the field, like he's suffering from anxiety, which is the name of the picture by Edvard Munch, which is in the other half of the picture. Do yourself a favor. You might find it entertaining. I do. Art But Make It Sports on Twitter is a pretty damn good follow. All right, let me get you guys into the mix. Anything you want to say about today's games, hop on my phone lines, 855-212-4227. Gary from Jacksonville first. Hey, Gary.
Mac, man, what a huge win for my Baltimore Orioles. It was one of those swing games. Instead of being 1 up in the last column, with the W, they're now 3 up in the last column with just 13 to go. A huge comeback win, down 3-1 in the 8th. They keep clawing. Rushman hits a home run. Frazier with a big double down the line. They just battle and battle. I love them. They're just an exciting team to watch, McMahon.
The last 48 hours changed your tune a little bit. When they had lost 4 in a row and the Rays took the first 2 games of the series, I'm guessing you're biting at your nails a little bit. Yes, now that they've won 2 in a row, you can kick back and puff out your chest a little bit bigger.
Yeah, but they've had bad games before. I still had faith in them because the way Rodriguez was pitching and Kramer's pitching this year, I had no doubt they would even the series, McMahon, because I told you long ago they were going to win the division. You know that.
You've been on the bandwagon since last year, so yes, you thought that they could be competitive and maybe win the division this year. I'll give you
and McMahon, all of this talk about Trevor Lawrence. The Jags get 3 turnovers down at the 2-yard line, 1st and goal. The great Trevor Lawrence that all these Jag fans are talking about, they scored 9 points at home, McMahon.
Yeah, I'll give some credit to the Kansas City defense, but that was a less than stellar effort by the Jags offense today. Some people elevating them a little bit too quickly. I'll go with you there.
Oh yeah, but some of them are making them Dan Marino and Joe Montana cross between.
A little early for that. Yes. Got to actually win a playoff game before you get to that.
Man. As I said, the first part of the year he lost to the Broncos, the Colts, and the Texans. So, I mean, you got to have more than half a year to, people start saying he's arrived.
I would agree with you. All right, you got a list for me tonight?
Ready for the list?
I am ready for one-hit wonders, correct?
Yes, pen and paper in hand.
So we have 6. I have a pen and paper. Give them to me.
Number 1, Rock Me Gently by Andy Kim.
Ooh.
Number 2, Nice to Be With You by Gallery. Number 3,
okay.
Still the One by Orleans. Number 4, Oh Lord, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood by Santa Esmeralda.
Okay.
Number 5, Time Won't Let Me by The Outsiders. And number 6, Spooky by the Cosmic Four. Do you like tonight's list?
I loved tonight's list until you got to 5 and 6 because I know both. Okay. I know both songs and I can't stand either one of them. I was ready to go. 6 will be Time Won't Let Me, but no, Spooky is even worse. So Spooky would be 6. Time Won't Let Me is 5. I like all 4 of the other ones though.
Okay, that's not bad. 4 out of 6.
I might be going directly in reverse order. Oh, don't let me be misunderstood. 4, Still the One, 3, and then Rock Me Gently. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to stick exactly with your order. Did you do this again last week, or did you have them in reverse order? I took them exactly the order that you laid them out in. I'm going to go 1 through 6, exactly the order you gave them to me.
Okay. McMahon, we're going to try. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to take you 6 out of Rolling Stones, called the top 200 songs of rock and roll, and I'm going to take 6 random Saturday, 6 random Sunday, and have you list them 1 through 6.
Cool. And by the way, Gary, I got a couple of good Twitter responses afterwards, either liking it or disliking your comedic duos, adding to their list after the show is over and done with. That's when you know you're doing a good job, when people are responding via social media. And I got several of them last night. So, as always, thank you for your list. Jody Mack here with you on CBS Sports Radio. We've got an hour and a half to play. Plenty of time for you to get your comments in. We will have one guest join us a little bit later. Last night, I had a Sweeney on the show. That would be Sweeney Murdy. Came on to talk MLB with us. We're going to have a Sweeney again tonight. That would be Pete Sweeney, the editor-in-chief of ArrowheadPride.com. Talk about the game. Gary was just talking about Chiefs defense did a pretty damn good job shutting down the Jacksonville Jaguars today, and they got even at 1-1 on the season. Pete Sweeney, editor-in-chief of Arrowhead Pride, a little bit later. Here with the latest CBS Sports Update is another Pete, but that would be Schwartz. May the Schwartz be with you.
Sports Flash.
All right, Jody, we kick off with Sunday Night Football in New England. The Dolphins and Patriots are scoreless in the first quarter. Now to Arizona, where the Giants rallied from 28-7 down in the third quarter to tie the game. It was 28-28 in the final seconds of regulation.
This will be a 34-yarder from the right hash. Gillen the hold. Kreider the long snapper to give the Giants the lead. Tied at 28. Gano is set. Snap is good. Kick on its way. Plenty of length, and it is good.
That was Bob Papa on Giants Radio. Biggest Giants comeback win in the Super Bowl era. Big Blue beating the Cardinals 31-28 in Arizona. You heard Graham Gano kick the game-winning 34-yard field goal with 19 seconds left in regulation. Elsewhere, Commanders over the Broncos 35-33. Cowboys ripped the Jets 30-10. Niners 30, Rams 23. It was the Chiefs over the Jaguars 17-9. Bucks 27, Bears 17. In overtime, the Titans over the Chargers 27-24. And Nick Folk's 41-yard field goal. It was the Colts over the Texans 31-20. Anthony Richardson 2 touchdown runs, but left with a concussion. In overtime, Seahawks 37, Lions 31. The Ravens over the Bengals 27-24. Falcons 25, Packers 24. The Bills over the Raiders 38-10. College football, AP top 10. Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Florida State, USC, Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, Notre Dame, and Oregon. Baseball, top of the fourth, Diamondbacks 3, Cubs 2. Finals, Dodgers 6, Mariners 1, Tigers 5, Angels 3. Padres over the A's 10-1. Nationals beat the Brewers 2-1 in 11. Wins for the Twins, Cardinals, Giants, Astros, Pirates, Marlins, Mets, Orioles, Blue Jays, and Guardians. The Orioles clinch a playoff spot. I'm Peter Schwartz.
Coming up tomorrow on the Zach Gelb Show, we recap another weekend of college football and week 2 of the NFL. 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific.
Hey, this is JR. Make sure you hang out with me weeknights here on CBS Sports Radio. It's my show, the JR Sport Brief, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific.
Did you know that Cumberland Farms actually invented coffee? Well, genius, that's the sort of thing you might believe when you forget your morning cup. Don't forget, Cumby's coffee, any size, just $1.29.
Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
This is Jim Rome. I'm talking to you and the biggest names in sports weekdays in the jungle, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. See you then.
We now return you to the Jody Mack Show, already in progress. Here's Jody Mack.
Jay Mack here with you on a Sunday night. I do the Shorty Show after Ion football. I give you the chance to chime in on everything that went down in the National Football League today up until Sunday night, and I keep an eye on Sunday Night Football for you. I will tell you that the Miami Dolphins have drawn first blood, drove the ball down the field after the Patriots punted it to them, got inside the 10-yard line, drive stalled there, had to settle for a field goal. So Miami, with about 3 minutes and change to go in the first quarter, leads New England 3-0 in Sunday Night Football. All right, let me get back on the phones. What do you guys have to say? 855-212-4227. Todd from Tampa time. Hello, Todd.
Jody, let's get down to business, okay? And the NCAA, I want to leave with a question, Jody, but I want to stay on the phone for you to answer it about the 69 Mets. But I want to talk right now about Colorado, number 4 in the country. Todd's number 4 team in the country behind FSU and Miami, 5 and 6, and Georgia number 1. I'll figure out who I'm going to put 2 and 3 right now. But, so anyway, big win by Colorado. I don't know what Prime said after the game when when he showed up with his sunglasses and his hat, but he probably told him, my mama said, don't take your sunglasses and hat off when I beat a team and score 40 on them. All right, but anyways, he got it done, and Colorado got it done. A huge win for Colorado. And now they go play.
Okay, I let you make your speech. Now let's talk about some other aspects of that game. They were 23.5-point favorites who had to go into overtime. And, oh, by the way, I'll tell you, Colorado State absolutely lost it more than Colorado won it because they had 170 yards in penalties. And despite the win, Colorado fell in the polls from 18 to 19. So you can continue to believe they're in the top 4 in the country. But one of these days, you'll actually wake up. I have faith in you, Todd.
Jody, I'm waking up to my 2-time Buccaneer Super Bowl champion, my 92-win Tampa Bay Rays, who I'll get to today, who gave one away. But let me say something else. Colorado lost their best player. The guy got hit out of bounds, and he's in the hospital. So you take the best player in the country, maybe, okay, besides the quarterback, that's Deion's son and his other son who took 80-yard touchdown run, okay, out of the game, and then you still try and find a way, and you still got it done. You got to say that's a key antidote that you got to put at the bottom of the page, and they still found a way to get it done. Anyway,
please tell me you think they're going into Eugene. Please tell me you think they're going into Eugene and winning next week against Oregon.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, they are. And let me tell Deion, what you need to put a spy on Bo Nix. Bo Nix played at Auburn, and he couldn't do nothing. Okay, he played Georgia, he got beat 31-3. So you got to put a spy on him and keep coming after Bo Nix all game long and play your game and try and go move down the field and keep your defense off the field. That's what you got to do, Prime. Without your best two-way player, by the way, who's in the hospital for a late hit that was cheap and uncalled for. Okay, that's targeted. Anyways, let's get back to my Rays. By the way, Rays, you won 2 and then you gave up the booty tonight and you had the game won. No excuse for that. Now, how can I be mad at a team that's got 92 wins, okay, and only 3 other teams in the nation have over 90 wins, and you clinched a playoff spot and you lost today, and you got 92 wins. But that can't happen again. When you got that team down, you step on their throat and you put the dagger in them, and it's over, okay? Let me say something to my Buccaneers. Tremendous job today. Tremendous team win. Okay, Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, Shaq Barrett. Did you see that play by the defensive lineman to get in the end zone and cover the number? What a move, what a play. Just a great job by my Buccaneers. 2-0, and I believe, Jody, we're coming to Philly. Or Philly's coming here.
Philly's coming to Tampa, but unfortunately it won't be till Monday night, so you and I won't be able to talk about the Eagles beating the snot out of the Bucs for 2 weeks.
We will talk about it prior to, and we will pick and see what's happening. Remember, Jody, I'm telling you in advance, I'm picking the Buccaneers and Philly in the NFC Championship game, which I picked before the season started, before we were 2-0. So I'm telling you, Buccaneers and Philadelphia in another classic. Okay, and another client, by the way, Rondé Barber special day today, who sealed the deal and got into the Hall of Fame. Another Buccaneer from that unbelievable defense. Jody, I'll hear your comments off the air. But go Colorado, go get Boulder, go Buccaneers, and let's go Rays because the playoffs are getting ready to start. Peace, Jody. You're the man.
Good luck to the Rays in the wild card round because they have to win in the wild card round while the Orioles get to sit and watch and see how the wild card plays itself out. I give Todd credit. He knows how to spin. They had them even, pull even with the Orioles, lose the last 2 games in the series. But, hey, we clinched a playoff spot today, which factually they did. But they missed out on a chance to actually jump into the divisional lead and have the best record in the American League. Trevor from Dallas up on CBS Sports Radio. Hey, Trev.
What's up, Jody Mack?
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I told you the Cowboys were going to dominate today. Yeah, I know. Zach Wilson played very, very poorly. But, I mean, we talked about this once or twice preseason. We weren't really sure about Mike McCarthy and his offensive play calling skills.
Mm-hmm.
So far, I think he's looked pretty good. Dak looked great today. Covered CeeDee Lamb if their lives depended on it. Defense did its thing. Once again, I know it's against Zach Wilson, but if we play every game like that, as just cerebral as we did today, just run the ball, take what the defense gives you, and then our defense shuts everybody down, I mean, we're going to be pretty dangerous this year, I think.
I would go even one further, and it really doesn't matter in the National Football League. It matters for guys like you and me talking on the radio, but it doesn't matter in reality. Style points count in college. They don't count at all in the National Football League. It's all just wins and losses. But if you did factor in style points, I would say the Cowboys are the most impressive team after 2 weeks in the National Football League. They won both of their games in dominating fashion. I don't think there's another team you can say that about. 49ers won handily against Pittsburgh and then ended up winning. It should have been 10, the late field goal. What the hell, doesn't really matter. But the Cowboys were more impressive to this point than the 49ers. So I'll give them their props. Like I said, if you're going to count style points, they could be the best team in the NFL 2 weeks in. They're 2-0. A bunch of other teams in the NFC are 2-0. Should be a fun season, specifically Philadelphia against Dallas when those two teams meet.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And, you know, we all kind of gave the NFC South a lot of flack. We figured they were going to be the worst division in football. I mean, I think the Saints still are the best team in that division, but the Bucs and the Falcons are going to make it interesting this year. I think Atlanta looks pretty decent. And Todd from Tampa will tell you, those Tampa Bay Buccaneers they got a lot of fight in them. They're not just going to roll it over this season, that's for sure.
They do. We'll get a nice read on Tampa, like I just discussed with Todd, against the Eagles. Not tomorrow, but Monday night thereafter. Get a read against a top-flight NFC team. But you're right; they got 2 wins so far. So give the Bucs their due. Mike from Baltimore is up on CBS Sports Radio. Hey, Mike.
Jody, always a pleasure.
Mike, hold on. I got to do this before I let you speak your piece, and I'll surely allow you to do that. I did double-check after you and I hung up last night. Do you ever go to footballreference.com or baseball reference or hockey reference? It's a very good website. Gives you all-time stats. Yes. When you look up an individual player, if a player has a stat that's in black, dark black, that means he led the league in that specific category that year.
Yes.
Jerry Rice in yards receiving, touchdowns, receptions, the 3 most important stats for a wide receiver, had in his career 15 black numbers.
Oh, amazing.
He led the league in one of those 3 stats 15 times. Tyreek Hill has not led the league in any of those 3 stats at all in his NFL career. So he's got some significant catching up to do if he's going to get into a conversation with Jerry Rice.
Well, no, what I did say, though, Jody, is
I think he is an all-time great receiver. Obviously, at this point in his career, not equal to Rice, but an all-time great receiver. But that's last night.
Let me put it this way. Can we wait for him to get one black mark before we make him an all-time great receiver? Let him lead the league in something one time before we put him into that category?
That's fair. Let's get to tonight. No, that is fair. That's fair. Now, as far as tonight, MacMan, I'm a little upset, and I'll tell you why. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay. All summer long, and I'm a very big fan of yours, and I have never let off a show in 30 years of calling you back to the New York days, let off a show talking about the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
But this summer, Jody, and you're the best, you have all the guests on and you give your opinions, but you did say three things that concerned me. You liked what they did in the offseason. You told us not to sleep on the Bears. Well, I've gone to sleep. Wake me up when they're 5-10, and maybe they'll knock somebody off who's trying to become a playoff team. And, you also said anybody in that division can come in first or last.
Which, oh, by the way, the Bears are 0-2, and they're one game out of first place.
Right. But, Jody, do you see anything different? What bothers me about this team is it just seems like we go through a merry-go-round of coaches. We don't know if Justin Fields is good. There are people who'll tell you he's good. There are people who'll tell you he's not good. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think he's just lost in a losing organization, but that's me. But, Jody, 0-2 out of the gate and not looking good at all. I'm just curious your thoughts. First look out of the gate this year.
Right.
Your first thought.
And I'll defend my position. I didn't say the Bears were going to win 11 or 12 games.
No,
I said I think any of those four teams I think any of those four teams can win that division or any of those four teams can finish last. And I stand by that as we sit here tonight. Have the Bears played well in their first two games? Absolutely not. They played worse than I thought they would. I would say they're trending in the wrong direction. But overall, in that division, I don't think that division, the Vikings are 0-2. The Lions got beat today. The Packers came back down to earth. So my overall stance was in that division, they could be competitive, and I'll stand by that, but they have to play better than they played. They've thrown out two stinkers so far.
Do you think, MacMan, they're going to get past 6 or 7?
Past 6, yeah. I think they can win 7 or 8. And if you win 8, you can potentially win 9. But you're right. If I'm saying 7, well, then they could also win 5 and be that bad. If you want to come on and say, Jody Mack, the Bears have stunk the first 2 weeks, you're not going to get an argument for me. They have.
And one last thing, Jody, as far as Gary's comedy list last night, I'm a very big supporter of Gary. I loved the change of pace with the comedy lists. I really did. That was a lot of fun, what he did. And as far as today's Orioles win, 37 years. I moved to Baltimore from Boston 38 years ago. I've seen a lot of pennant races.
And I hope you enjoy this one because I got to run because they're playing the music and I got to wrap up the hour.
Did you know that Cumberland Farms actually invented coffee? Well, genius, that's the sort of thing you might believe when you forget your morning cup. Don't forget, Cumby's coffee, any size, just $1.29.
Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're streaming online at cbssportsradio.com. Expect it here. CBS Sports Radio. He's Jody Mack, and he's diplomatic.
If you agree with me, it doesn't mean we're right. If you disagree with me, it doesn't mean you're right and I'm wrong, because it is pretty subjective.
He's opinionated.
It was boring as all get out as they slowly matriculate the ball down the field. And watch the clock go tick, 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 tick. No, that's not exciting.
He's humble.
I'm not trying to injure myself, patting myself on the back here.
And his job is simple.
I talk about sports.
This is the Jody Mack Show. Here's Jody Mack.
Got an hour left on our Sunday Shorty Show here on CBS Sports Radio. Jody Mack hanging with you for 60 more. On Sunday nights, I give you a chance to be heard about any of the earlier action. Earlier, because we've got Sunday Night Football ongoing. Dolphins got the ball back again, driving again, up 3-0 against the Patriots. I keep an eye on that one for you. But I usually try and get a guest up to talk about one of the interesting early games in a day, and one of the games that I certainly thought would fall into that category would be Jacksonville, Kansas City, two teams who made the playoffs last year, played each other in the playoffs, as a matter of fact. So we lined up a guest to talk about some Chiefs-Jags action today, and that would be Pete Sweeney, editor-in-chief of Arrowhead Pride. Pete, muchas gracias, amigo. Thank you very much for coming on with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Happy to talk about the Chiefs and the Jaguars here.
Our pleasure. If I had reached out to you before the game and said, listen, Pete, I'll cover any of your action. I'll set the over-under of today's game at 26.5. Your response probably would have been, Jody, can you give me an hour to get a second mortgage so I can bet the over at 26.5? But you would have been a loser because today's final score is 17-9 Kansas City. You saw that coming. Defensive struggle. Neither team gets to 20. You knew that ahead of time, right, Pete?
An hour. I would have had to get all my bank accounts together, and I would have to empty everything. I didn't need 2 hours. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's bizarro world right now, I think, in Kansas City and with the Chiefs, because this is typically a team that we're used to seeing the offense carry the team. And sometimes the defense doesn't play up to snuff, and it doesn't matter because Patrick Mahomes goes crazy and they have 35 points on the board. But, yeah, what you're seeing right now is even in week 1, which they didn't end up winning, but I think the only reason they were in that game is because the defense was doing its job holding the line to just those 14 points, didn't end up with the victory. They were able to get it today, again, because of the defense. And I think as I'm talking to fans in Kansas City who are a little panicky right now about how the offense looks, if you could pick one side to look good at the beginning of the year, I think you pick the defense, because in all the years that Patrick Mahomes has been with Andy Reid, the worst that they've finished is a number 6 offense in the league when it comes to points per game. So that'll come around. I think this defense is a pleasant surprise and one that should put Kansas City right back in that Super Bowl picture.
And speaking of their defense, I've been doing this for a long time, and we know how great a player Chris Jones is, runner-up defensive player of the year, the whole holdout. We could now go back and analyze should he or shouldn't he. Let's put that aside and just talk about what he did today when he got back out there. Had 2 sacks, made a couple of huge plays. And oftentimes you get a guy like that back, and he's such an integral part of the team. It not only helps with his production, but it also lifts the team in general. Can you advocate for that today with the Chiefs? Do you think just his return helped some of his teammates play better?
Well, in talking to some of the guys leading into the game, they just really understand what Chris Jones does for their prospect of getting to the quarterback. It just creates a lot of more one-on-ones for guys like George Karlaftis and Mike Dana. And what you saw today is not only Chris Jones making his own luck in a way, producing those pressures, but it was leading to pressures for the other guys. They were able to get to the quarterback a bunch today. Trevor Lawrence, who I think is pretty darn good and up and coming here, he never really was comfortable, especially with Chris Jones on the field. And it makes for sack totals to go up with just more than Jones. And I think he makes this defensive line, he makes it maybe go from what is an average to a slightly above average that you saw in week 1 to approaching the above average to elite in week 2 here. And I think as you look at the second level, which to me in Kansas City is a little bit underrated, and some of these young cornerbacks, I really think on the defensive side of the ball, you just don't know. I think this defense could be pretty good. I think the ceiling for me is top 10, and we'll see. But of course, Chris Jones and his presence is going to raise those levels dramatically, and I think you really saw that today. And it was kind of impressive, just given the fact that he didn't have any off-season work, no training camp, no preseason, kind of right off the training room, really, and was able to do that. They always talk about football shape. It didn't seem like Chris Jones needed to be in football shape. He was good to go.
All right. Last week, of course, on Thursday night, they get beat by the Lions. I don't want to take away from the Lions' victory, but the Chiefs dropped a lot of footballs, very catchable footballs that I know Mahomes didn't have his guy, Travis Kelce, there, but a lot of guys did come up small and drop balls on him. Like Kadarius Toney caught all 5 balls that came his way today. Good job, Kadarius, because he could have made a difference in week number 1. How are the rest of the receivers doing at catching the football today against the Jacksonville defense?
Yeah, they look pretty good. I think Andy Reid would like to clean up some of the turnovers and the penalties and some of the miscues and the misfires, but definitely better than it was last week with all the drops. And you're right. Like, you don't want to look at that game and make excuses, because these guys don't want to make excuses. And, Andy Reid was asked about not having Chris Jones and Kelce after that game, and he himself said, no, they could have been injured. For example, like with Chris Jones, we have to find a way to win anyway. That being said, if one of those guys plays in that game, are they worth 2 points? That 1 point that they ended up losing by, as you mentioned, with the 5 or 6 drops, if one or two of those drops goes the other way, I think the Chiefs end up winning that game, and you're looking at a 2-0 record. But they got some work to do, and I've been saying this a lot in Kansas City today. I think the big thing about not playing so well is you got the win. It was a really bad taste for 10 days here when you ended up spoiling your opening night, your banner night. And now, again, even though it wasn't perfect and the offense continues to look a little janky, it just is a much better feel when you're able to somehow pull out the win, which is what they were able to do today.
We're talking to Pete Sweeney from ArrowheadPride.com, their editor-in-chief, here with us on CBS Sports Radio. I didn't get a chance to watch play-in and play-out of this game today. You did. Just caught some of its action on the around the league channel, Red Zone. Calvin Ridley, 8 balls went his way, only 2 catches. Good defense by the Chiefs secondary. Did he have the same dropsies the Chiefs had week 1 against the Lions? How were the Chiefs able to contain a guy who I think could be a key player? I said before the season started, out of sight, out of mind because of his gambling suspension last year. I think he's a very talented wide receiver. He did next to nothing against the Chiefs today. How'd they pull it off?
Yeah, it's these young cornerbacks, and they're not really household names when it comes to the national, I think, media, just simply because I feel like this is just such an offensive-driven team. Right? It's Mahomes and Kelce in the bunch. A lot of folks know about Chris Jones, especially now with the contract, but the secondary doesn't really get a ton of love. And Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed are, I think, 2 of the more underrated cornerbacks in the league. And what the Chiefs tend to do behind them is rotate guys. And this is something they've been doing for a while now with Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson. But to me, it all starts with McDuffie and Sneed, and they found ways to make sure that Calvin Ridley had some extra attention today. I don't think it was necessarily Ridley doing the things that the Chiefs did in the last game as far as drops go. I think they were able to maintain pretty good coverage, and I think they saw what Ridley was able to do in week 1, and they said, we're not going to let this guy beat us. They're going to have to beat us with other players on this team. And as you saw, Christian Kirk went for 110 because that leaves Kirk with less attention, which means one-on-ones, and they were able to get their yardage that way. But I just was really impressed, just the fact that you were able to make sure that the Jacksonville Jaguars, whose offense is pretty good, we mentioned Ridley and Kirk, and they have Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne, just to hold them to 9 points, especially with some of those receivers and some of those weapons. I thought it was really impressive. And it's an odd time of year because you don't know which offenses in the league are top notch. I tend to really believe in Jacksonville. And so I think you take that and you continue to move on forward, and you face some pretty good teams and some pretty good receivers this year. I think you look at what you were able to do today and say, look, we can do that against almost anybody. And there'll be some other teams that come up later in the year, like the Cincinnati Bengals. They're probably about to go into desperation mode now, 0-2, but I tend to think they'll still be there at the end of the year. And so a game like this can only give you confidence when you're facing that trio.
All right. The only thing that saved me on opening night, I liked the Chiefs. I thought they were going to win and win handily. And, of course, Detroit pulls the upset. The only proper wager that I made was a prop bet on rushing yards by Patrick Mahomes before the game. I think it was 12.5 or something like that, which he added by the end of the first quarter. And today he goes for another 30 on the ground. You don't think of Patrick Mahomes. We've got a lot of quarterbacks in the National Football League. When they pull it down, go with it, and or have designated running plays, nobody bats an eye. We know Mahomes is a pretty good athlete, but anytime he's taken off, he's putting himself at risk. He's done it pretty frequently here in the first 2 weeks. Just the way that the game broke, avoiding pressure. Is he taking more pride in his ability to make plays with his legs with other guys out there in the league doing the same thing? Why is Patrick Mahomes running become an option in the Kansas City offense?
Well, they need to establish the run a little bit better. Going into the second half today, the running backs together had 2 carries, one for Jerick McKinnon and one for Isaiah Pacheco. And the Chiefs offense doesn't tick well unless they get the run game going early. And I think you're seeing some of that where they're not establishing the run and they go pass first and there's all this coverage. And by the time you get you through 2 or 3 seconds into play, everybody's covered and Mahomes says, I'm going to just take it myself. And so you never want to see your quarterback who's not that classic run quarterback like maybe Lamar Jackson, or now that you're seeing Anthony Richardson that are maybe going to be run first. You never want to see Mahomes himself leading rushing, right? Like you have some pretty good running backs on the team. Everybody learned about who Isaiah Pacheco was last year and what he was able to do down the stretch. And so the Chiefs turned back to the run in this game, and you didn't see Mahomes running as much in the second half. And yeah, again, you had 2 carries in the first half, and Isaiah Pacheco ended up with 12 attempts for 70 yards. And the offense was a little bit more fluid in the second half, and they were able to get down the field. You had less turnovers, which I know was a good thing. So I think they're understanding themselves that they ought to establish the run and protect their quarterback, right? Like the worst thing that you would possibly see is Mahomes on one of these runs taking a hit, and then you lose him for a game or that game. And so it's a problem. I think the Chiefs realize it's a problem. They've said that we need to be better at run blocking. They were much better in the second half, and they'll try to have that carry over to next game against the Chicago Bears.
And you mentioned the Bears. That's where it's going next is the schedule. After you lose to Detroit, get Jacksonville, good tough test. Week number 2 on the road, you find a way to win. Bears next week, they're 0-2. After that, the Jets, who are going without Aaron Rodgers, are now 1-1. Minnesota's 0-2. Denver's 0-2. The Chargers are 0-2. Then Denver again. Week 9 before you play a team that might have a winning record in Miami. Is that the schedule the Chiefs are looking at?
Before the year started, the schedule looked pretty tough, I gotta say. But as you're learning early here, and usually I think it's between weeks 1 and 6 where you start to realize like maybe the teams who we thought were going to be good are not so good, or maybe you have an injury situation like we have seen with the New York Jets, where suddenly a game that was supposed to be one of the games between the top 2 AFC contenders, or 2 of them, is no longer the case. But the Chiefs are fortunate in a sense that the conference is sort of falling back to them right now. As you look at it, the Baltimore Ravens have that undefeated record at 2-0. Nobody else is 2-0. We'll see about the Cleveland Browns tomorrow and the Miami Dolphins tonight. But they were able to slip up, and suddenly, again, just 1 week later, it kind of seems like everything is sort of manageable in that sense. And you mentioned it, as you look at the next couple weeks here, you have the Chicago Bears, which should be a win. They still feel like they're a year at least, maybe 2 away. Then you get the New York Jets, as you were saying. And so division games for me are always tough. And so you're not trying to ever jump weeks. Andy Reid really hates the idea of just like looking forward and not focusing on the team in hand, because anybody can get beat at any time. But I go and I jump and look at till week 7 probably when you're looking at the Chargers. Like I don't consider the Broncos a team that's going to threaten the Chiefs for the AFC West. So they should take care of business the next couple of weeks. And should there not be some of these self-inflicted wounds, I think the Chiefs will probably have one loss going into that week 7 game. The Chargers are now another team that is going to have to try to figure out a way to turn it around. That's pretty good and started 0-2. So it'll be really interesting, because I think one of these surprise 0-2, 1-1 teams is going to find themselves on the outside looking in because of some of these early woes, and we'll see how it all plays out. That's the fun of this.
Last one for you, Pete, and again, thank you very much for doing this. Week 1, not a big scoring week for the Chiefs. I would put it more on drop passes than anything else, and Kelsey not being in the lineup. This week, not nearly as much of an explanation thereafter. Win is a win, it's a win, but 17 points are also 17 points. Is anyone in Kansas City yet bemoaning the loss of Eric Bieniemy, leaving to go take over as the offensive coordinators of the Commanders? We all know it's Andy's offense, but Bieniemy should get some credit for what they've been as far as an offensive team goes the last couple of years. Anybody wondering if Bieniemy will be missed more than maybe people thought?
Well, as we're kind of talking here, it makes sense that conversation is probably going to surface this week because it's the Bears. I think Matt Nagy is suddenly going to be somebody that is talked about, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. And I started to see some of those tweets and comments coming through on our website today about, is Nagy a problem? And do they forget about the run too much when Eric Bieniemy is not around? And so I think especially during Bears week, that's the time those conversations will start to come. And I think Andy Reid usually has a good feel for this thing, and he'll probably try to say what he needs to say to silence any of the doubters. But I do think sometimes Bieniemy was great to have around because he was a career running back, starting out as a running backs coach, was a running back for Andy Reid, and he always wanted to make sure that Chiefs were establishing the run, and that's something that was a problem truly today during the first half. So I think that's possible, but the key here, Jody, is just the wins. The Chiefs can put together 4 or 5 wins. A lot of the times it doesn't matter what the rushing stats look like, and that has always been the case seemingly in Kansas City. But they have some work to do because I think they're going to be a fine team. I think you're probably looking at the span of the range of about 12 to 14 to 15 wins. But you're always asking the question here in Kansas City: is this team good enough to A, go back to the Super Bowl, and B, win it? Because that is what they are measured by nowadays. And I just don't think they're there right now. But look, they got 15 games to figure it out.
Exactly. And I guarantee you're going to get at least one comment where they point out that the Sam Howell-led Commanders with Eric Bieniemy as offense coordinator have scored 55 points, while the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs have only scored 37. Be ready for it. Those comments are coming this week. Have fun with them. Pete, we had fun talking to you tonight. Thank you very much for doing it with us. We will certainly tap into you again down the road.
All right. Take care.
That is Pete Sweeney, editor-in-chief of ArrowheadPride.com, here with us on CBS Sports Radio. All right, Jody Mack coming back. I lost touch while doing the interview with the Sunday Night Football game. The Dolphins had scored a touchdown to pump their lead up to 10-0. They've got the football back again. As of right now, this one hasn't been all that competitive. It is 10-0. Dolphins in their own end. They did get the ball back, but they're inside their own 20-yard line. So if the Patriots can get a stop here on third down with 5 minutes and change to go in the half, maybe they get they're going to throw a flag on that. See, here's another play. I talked about this with Gelb when I was doing Eye on Football. Jalen Waddle was behind the defender. Tua threw it up for grabs. Wasn't a great pass. He kind of put it up there for Waddle to be able to go make a play. And the defender absolutely grabbed his arm and kept him from going up to be able to make a play. And there was no flag to be had. They are letting them play more in the National Football League this year. They're giving defensive backs. Let's hear it for the defensive backs. Defensive backs are being given a chance to compete a little bit more with some physicality on the outside. Jody Mack coming back. Phones reopened. Last 45 minutes, get in as many calls as I can. You want to be part of it, pick it up and dial. 855-212-4CBS.
You can forget your password or your keys. You can even forget your kids.
Dad?
But one thing you don't forget is delicious Cumberland Farms coffee.
Just $1.29. Any size, any way you like it. Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
Phones don't miss a minute of the Jim Rome Show. Weekdays 12 to 3 Eastern on CBS Sports Radio. Don't be boring.
I got a ton of tweets, but it's just people retweeting what I tweeted earlier in the day and or liking my tweets. That's not going to get the job done. You actually have to share a thought, a point. You got to actually give me something.
Searching your tweets for the Mac Daddy tweet of the day. Here's Jody Mack.
J Mac hanging with you on CBS Sports Radio. And I'll give you another example of what will not win Mac Daddy Tweet of the Day. For those of you who just tuned in, I mentioned earlier there's one Twitter outlet that I follow called Art But Make It Sports, in which an individual or a group, I don't know who runs this Twitter account, but they find pictures, classic art shots that are very similar to sports photographs that have been taken recently. And it's just... It's a lot of fun, and some of them are so on point it's scary, others are just humorous and the like, and it's one of the accounts that I do follow. So I suggest, if you want to check it out, if you're a sports fan, you think you might enjoy this. So I got a bunch of tweets over the last hour because I said this in hour number one. Hey, Jody, I followed Art But Makes Sports. Damn, some of those things are great. Well, okay, you don't have to thank me for it. Just do it. And, oh, by the way, if you think that's going to put you in the running for Mac Daddy Tweet of the Day, not just, oh, Jody, yeah, great idea. Thanks for the suggestion. You the man. No, that's not going to win. You actually have to make a cogent sports point. Bring something to the table that is thought-provoking. That could potentially get you the award, Best Tweet of the Day, which is known as Mac Daddy Tweet of the Day. Manny Rod right on top of it. Rich from Chicago is up on CBS Sports Radio. Hey, Rich.
Jody Mack.
Hey, buddy.
I have a comment and a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The comment is your pal from Tampa, Todd, has got to be delusional or be a heavy drinker. The line on Colorado-Oregon game, this Oregon has a 20.5-point favorite.
20.5? Is it that big?
20.5.
Wow. I would have gone north of 2 touchdowns, but not almost 3. That's a big number.
I think they're assuming that the two-way kid, who's phenomenal, is going to be questionable.
Out. Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure that factors into it. But anyway, I want to get into your favorite team. And after watching the game, and I too have been a Jets fan since Namath in '69. I'm an older guy. I'm even older than you. But here's what I was going to suggest. I think the audition is over for Zach Wilson. And I think if you're the front office for the Jets, you got to ask yourself, especially given the upcoming difficulty of the schedule, what are you going to do? And obviously with Rodgers out for the year, I think there's 2 things that they need to do. The left tackle, Dwayne Brown, got annihilated. I've never seen a bigger beatdown in my life than what Parsons did to him. Yeah. Just completely destroyed this kid. I shouldn't say kid, because I did look him up.
Yeah, Brown's been around for a while. He's no kid, and you're right.
I know.
He ate him up and spit him out.
38 years old. I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know who he was. But this guy's a revolving door. He can't stop you or I. He's terrible. And there's a Chicago kid that was a first-round draft pick of the Lions named Laken Tomlinson, who you're probably familiar with, who was drafted as a tackle, high school and at Duke. Kid's really good. I don't understand why you don't move him to left tackle, sit Dwayne Brown down. And then the next move would be, because as you know, that there's some free agent quarterbacks that are available, and I don't understand why you wouldn't go out and get, and I'll just suggest this because there's others, but I would go get a Matt Ryan. I would go get Ryan, and I would put him in because it's not going to get any better. I think you've seen enough. I've seen enough with Justin Fields. All right, and I got to tell you, Zach Wilson, I think we both know this, is not going to do the job. And I think if the Jets want to salvage the season and I think they could be a playoff team. Their defense is exceptional. They've got to get a Matt Ryan, and they've got to move Dwayne Brown out of that left tackle spot. If they can protect the quarterback and get an experienced kid, a kid, an older guy like Ryan, I think they're fine. But I don't know why you stay the course now. I just don't understand why they don't do something this week.
I don't either, and I absolutely agree with you about upgrading left tackle. I guess Matt Ryan is better than Zach Wilson. There's potential upside with Wilson. I think it's like 1%, and it's not worth playing, but I watched Matt play enough last year. I just think he's done. I don't know that he's got anything left in the tanks. Or are you changing just for change's sake? I've seen people speculate that if the Vikings lose this week, maybe Kirk Cousins becomes available. And the Jets as an organization, even though it's kind of changed since when Cousins was available, they were a runner-up in the Cousins sweepstakes when he signed with Minnesota. Would they revisit that? Kirk Cousins is legit. I think Matt Ryan is legitimately done. I think that Zach Wilson was legitimately never going to make it, period. So here's my overall evaluation of the situation, Rich. The Jets are screwed. They're screwed. They're screwed. They should do something. They shouldn't just sit on their hands. But I have very little, if any, faith at all that any of those machinations can actually straighten out the season.
All right, last thing for you is I thought about that, but can you think they can absorb Kirk Cousins' contract with all the other contracts they have sitting out there? I don't think so. They'd have to absorb.
Right. They got to take on his contract. They can, if Kirk wants to come, then they can do a contract extension and add a year, but make it voidable so you could spread out the cap hit over a period of time. Now, eventually, you're going to have to pay the price for it. You take a major hit during the off season going into next season, but they could fit Cousins in if they wanted to do some checkbook journalism.
Yeah, well, anyway, I feel sorry for you. I thought they had a great shot this year, and it just gets worse.
Yeah, not good. Thank you very much, Rich, for sharing in my pain. I'm going to get John. I got a pair of Johns, one from Wisconsin, one from Georgia. Oh, and I got my guy James from L.A. He's lamenting like me. His Raider loss, my Jet loss. Misery loves company. So James going to check in. You want to check in? Do it by dialing 855-212-4227. Get your calls up after the latest CBS Sports Update. Here's the big guy, Peter Schwartz.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, Jody, we will start with Sunday Night Football in New England. They're in the second quarter, and the Dolphins are on top of the Patriots by a score of 10-3. Now to Inglewood.
Purdy's under center for the first time. Jawan Jennings goes in motion, lines up next to Trent Williams. Here's a stretch throw to McCaffrey, a cutback inside the 5, breaks a tackle all the way to the goal line. Christian McCaffrey, touchdown! San Francisco!
That was Greg Pop on 49ers Radio. Niners beat the Rams 30-23. Elsewhere, Commanders 35, Broncos 33, Cowboys over the Jets 30-10. Giants 31, Cardinals 28, Chiefs over the Jaguars 17-9, Bucks 27, Bears 17, and the Titans over the Chargers in overtime 27-24. Colts 31, Texans 20 in overtime, Seahawks 37, Lions 31. Ravens over the Bengals 27-24. The Falcons top the Packers 25-24, and the Bills beat up on the Raiders 38-10. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson suffered a concussion in the first quarter of today's game against the Texans, did not return. Richardson had 2 touchdown runs before leaving the game. Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Florida State, USC, the top 5 in the latest AP college football poll. Now to baseball, top of the 7th, Diamondbacks 5, Cubs 2. Finals, the Orioles beat the Rays 5-4 in 11, and the Orioles clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2016. From hockey, Blue Jackets head coach Mike Babcock announcing his resignation without ever coaching a game for Columbus. He resigned after a Players Association investigation into whether he violated players' privacy when they asked to see photos on their cell phones. I'm Peter Schwartz.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio in the Twitterverse for breaking sports news. Go to twitter.com/CBS Sports Radio.
Did you know that Cumberland Farms actually invented coffee? Well, genius, that's the sort of thing you might believe when you forget your morning cup. Don't forget, Cumby's coffee, any size, just $1.29.
Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Stay up late with me after hours on CBS Sports Radio. We start 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
This is appointment listening.
Be tuned, be planned, circle it on your calendar. This should be the highlight of your week.
This is the Jody Mack Show. Here's Jody Mack.
Who's number 0 on the Miami Dolphins? I should know this off the top of my head. I don't. Is that my guy Berrios from the Jets? Yes, it is. Nice route that he ran. Dolphins get the ball back after the Patriots kick a field goal, make it 10-3 with like a minute and change to go, and the Dolphins drive it right down the field. Berrios just ran an in-dig route, then went back out to the pylon, made a great catch in traffic, and gets tackled at the 1.5-yard line and gets pushed out of bounds. Just short of the end zone. So the Dolphins have it 25 seconds to play, first and goal from the 2.5. Do they have any timeouts left? I'm trying to judge it by the graphic. No, they're out of timeouts. So it looks like they're going to throw the football, and if Tua feels any pressure, he'll throw it to the goalposts. But they've got a couple of cracks at the end zone here. If they can get a touchdown, they could have a commanding 17-3 lead. But they haven't scored yet. 10-3 Dolphins, 25 seconds to go in the first half. All right, I've got, let me do the math, about 13, 14 minutes left here with you guys, and I still do need to give you the best tweet of the day, a good late entry. If you're going to send it, you better send it fast, and you better make it good. I've got a decent winner, leader in the clubhouse as of right now, at Jody Macman, JodyMacman. If you want to get quickly on the line, I'll get to you, 855-212-4227. Wisconsin first stop. John, you're on CBS Sports Radio.
Jody Mack, great to hear your voice on an NFL Sunday. Look, wanted to start with the question first. I'll give you a 5-minute story like Todd down in Florida. Just kidding. But for real, the question that I have for you, your team's losing, and the opponent is scoring in the 20s. And you're sitting there as a fan base, and you're looking at the head coach who's calling the offense, and you're looking at the defensive coordinator. Why is it that every single NFL fan base defaults to blaming the defensive coordinator?
Oh, I don't agree with that. I think there's just as much scrutiny of offensive coordinators. In the one scenario that you just laid out, I could see that being too heavy-handed, but that's not – I don't think that's every NFL fan base. I think that would be more appropriate if you flipped all the storylines and put it on the offense coordinator. I think fan bases love to bury offensive coordinators and cut defensive coordinators much more slack.
I think overall we need to lay off coordinators and coaches in general, right? Particularly when – and I'm speaking on the defensive side, obviously in Wisconsin, watching this Green Bay lose by 1 today. What an incredible cover. Those guys in Vegas, aided by AI, they know what's going on down there, you know what I mean? But, man, I mean, you look at missed tackles, you look at missed interceptions, and on the offensive side, when a receiver drops a pass, we blame the receiver. When a QB throws a pick, most fans are going to react and say, man, that quarterback threw a pick. What a bad pick, right? But it seems like if somebody misses a tackle, right, if they can't handle Bijan Robinson, who I believe is going to be one of the all-time greats, I mean, that dude is electric so far. If somebody misses a tackle, somebody drops a pick, for whatever reason, it just feels like instead of fans lashing out at players on the defensive side, they really lash out at the defensive coordinator. And I just wanted to call in and just, for a word of caution, it's week 2, it's in the NFL season now, right? This isn't week 1. We've kicked the dust off. As fans, let's just relax a little bit, right? Particularly if you're in Wisconsin, but I understand it's a nationwide show. Nobody cares about my team.
We care about everybody's team. That's the beauty of it. And we care about the Packers and the Chiefs and the Jaguars and the Jets and the Cardinals. Oh, my God, did they choke one up today against the Giants. We care about them all, and that's why I open up my phone, is it lets you chime in on your team. So your read on today's Packer game was, yeah, the players kind of let down. You're not putting it on the coaching staff for today's loss against the Falcons.
I don't think anybody on the Packers should have lost their job because of today's game. Losing arguably 4 of their 5 best players with Elton Jenkins, David Bakhtiari, Christian Watson, and Aaron Jones sitting out. I mean, that's tough,
right? And you go down into Atlanta, who I think is an improved team. For those of you down there listening in that region, congrats, you guys got a big win. But losing 4 of our top 5 or 6 players and coming in a point and having numerous chances. But at the end of the day, if you go 3 and out, if you only get 2 first downs in the entire second half, it's going to be tough to win a football game. So, lot of Packer Nation.
I'll
right
say
now
the
is
same
calling
thing
for
I
Joe Barry's
did.
head.
I'll say the same thing I did to my buddy Mike from Baltimore, who said, "Jody, you gave the Bears a chance. The Bears stink." Well, yeah, they have stunk for 2 days, but it is the only first 2 weeks of the season. And the Packers are in that same division. That division is very much up for grabs. I will repeat it for you like I have all Lion fans, all Bears fans, all Viking fans, and the Vikings are also 0-2. You can win that division? Yeah, that division is wide open. There is no super team in that division. There is no, although the Bears have looked like it, any sad sisters of the poor in that division. There are no just write it in W, we're going to beat that team because they're just that bad. The Bears have been that bad, but I think they will get better. That division is still very much up for grabs. John from Georgia is up on CBS Sports Radio. Hey, John.
Hey, this is John from LaGrange, Georgia, and I just want to say the Atlanta Braves were looking like they were going to be the dominant team. I know they got swept by Miami, but what do you think about good losses toward the end of the season, getting a team to refocus? I mean, they have historic hitting. They have great defense. The starting pitching is pretty good, but not their relief core. So what's your take on that?
So when you say good losses, you mean just like wake-up calls? We can't just go through the motions. We got swept by this team as we're locking up home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Can the manager play that tune and make it work in a clubhouse? Maybe.
If he could, if anyone, it would be Brian Snitker. I think he gets the Manager of the Year award for a lot of good reasons.
I'm a Snitker guy, and yes, they've had a historic power year, most home runs ever by a team, and we still got a week and a half to go in the season. In the history of the National League is kind of speaks to what kind of lineup the Braves put out there on a day-in, day-out basis. 3 games, is that enough? For, oh, my God, we can't just throw our gloves out there and think we're going to beat teams. I don't know if that's enough, but I'll watch the last 10 games as they cruise to, yes, they've already won the division. They won it on Phillies turf last weekend, as a matter of fact, which was a little poke in the eye for Phillies fans. All right, if that's how you're trying to put a spin on a weekend, I'd just stick with, and what's our record? Rather than worry about that the Braves needed a wake-up call at this stage of the season. James from LA is up on CBS Sports Radio. Hello, James.
What's up, buddy? How we doing?
Very good. How about you?
All right. Okay, let's see. I'm going to get down to things real quick. We're 1-1. We're losing. We lost to the eventual Super Bowl champions in my book. I told you a long time ago. I got Buffalo and Seattle going to Super Bowl. They both bounced back this weekend, so they're holding up to what I think they're going to do. And Buffalo's always had the Raiders' number. Like the Raiders have Denver's number, no matter what. Buffalo has our number. So I'm not too mad about that. Let's see what we do the rest of the season and move forward through it. Secondly, Deion Sanders, I think people are a little hard on him. Did we not love Tim Tebow?
Whoa. Time out, Mile High. A little hard on him. That program has been put on a pedestal the last 2 weeks.
So they went.
They're taking College Game Day out there because they won their first 2 games.
Okay, but
where are people being too hard on Deion?
We love hot topics. Do you not remember Lynn Sanity when Jeremy Lin went crazy?
Yes.
Do you not remember Tim Tebow when Tim Tebow went crazy? You remember Manny Ramirez coming to the Dodgers for a month? I saw girls that looked like Barbie dolls wearing dreadlocks. So everyone went crazy. They love hot topics. Deion is a hot topic. He turned a one.
I'm not debating anything that you just said. You are 100% right. But I need you to explain to me how your previous comment, people are being too hard on Deion Sanders, is accurate because he's a hot topic. He's getting all the love. People are jumping on the bandwagon. That's not giving him a hard time.
But people are saying that he much like the coach, this last coach had told him, hey, you need to be more respectful and this and that. It's just a certain image that he's portraying that's different that I think a majority of the country has against him. For whatever reason, he's doing it. He's doing it in a non-traditional way than what they're doing. Now they're going to get smoked when they go to go to Oregon, and I think USC is going to beat them too. And my Bruins, who are 2-0, baby, I think they're going to do some damage with them as well. But enjoy it while it lasts, man. We love Tebow, we love Linsanity, we love Man Ram, and those are just a few examples. So hey,
I like all of your examples, but I'll tell you what I said in each of those situations. Can we extend this a little bit? Can we wait just a little bit more before we put Jeremy Lin in basketball's Hall of Fame? Because some people were ready to do that, and I thought it was ludicrous at the time. And the individuals were going, ooh, because of Deion Sanders, because he's doing it differently. Yeah, they're going to be in the football play. Yeah. When they make the playoff at the end of the year, I'll stand up and go ahead, beat me to a pulp. I was wrong. I said that we need to wait a couple of minutes before we put Deion on any pedestal, and I'll stand by that today because they were a 23-point favorite that had to go to overtime to win last night.
Well, they're going to get smoked. They're going to get smoked next week, so he's going to come back down to earth, and the naysayers will be like, "See, I told you so."
And I'll be one of them. I'm raising my hand right now. You bet I am. And not because
we know the game, Jody. We're not outsiders looking in. We know what the deal is. A lot of people don't. A lot of non-sports fans don't.
No,
and they're looking at it.
What a lot of non-sports fans do, and you just pointed to them, rightfully so, they get caught up in the moment. And they blatantly overstate what has actually been accomplished.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, when that happens, I'm going to point that out, even if it means James from L.A. is going to go, ooh, why are you giving Deion a hard time? I'm not giving Deion a hard time. I'm pointing out those who are putting Deion on too big a pedestal too quickly. That's not giving Deion. To me, that's not giving Deion a hard time. That's pointing to reality.
Well, like you said, everyone wants you to be positive about it. You know what I'm saying? So positivity, yes. But reality is going to set in next week and probably against USC. We both know that. A lot of people are saying, oh, you got to believe, you got to believe. He's going to get smacked. I know that. I've been doing this 30, 40 years. You know that. But for the people that are thinking positive about it and everything, hey, why step on their parade? Why rain on their parade, man? Let them go.
Because I'm sorry, James. That's you. That's not me. I'm gonna bring you back down to reality. If you're going to blatantly overstate something and get caught up in a moment and make proclamations of what's actually been achieved, I'm sorry. I'm gonna say time out. Not happening. You're nuts. You're over the top. And if that makes me a hater, then I'm a hater. But I'm giving Deion the credit that he deserves for doing it his way and doing it differently. And people now that I can get with you. The whole what he did was improper. That you can't just create it. That's baloney. That's just Deion being ahead of the curve on the rules. But when you take it too far and say because he won his first 2 games, he's going to be in the playoff at the end of the year, that's when I'm going to throw the red challenge flag.
And I agree. Last question to you. My Bruins, do they have a chance in Utah this week?
Yeah, that's a pretty good game. The friggin'
It's going to be a great game.
I saw this. I wrote this down. I didn't get any college football, and I apologize for that. 8 teams in the top 25 out of the Pac-12. Holy mackerel. As they're going out the door, they're doing so with a flourish, at least here in the early stages of the season. Kudos to the Pac-12 for their fast start across the board. All right, I've only got a couple of minutes left. I got to punch up my Twitter account here. And I did get the winner, best tweet that I received, which is Mac Daddy tweet of the day within the last half hour of today's show. Well, we only had 2 hours, so I guess it's not that surprising. It comes from Josh Garzanati. I don't think I've ever gotten a tweet from Josh. So a first-time winner, a debut winner. Josh, congrats. So, Jody Mack, I've got your newspaper headline for Broncos country tomorrow. Hail Mary full of disgrace Commanders scored 35 as Broncos miracle falls short. Now you had to see the end of the Bronco game. They threw a Hail Mary up at the final play, 50 yards out, tipped 4 times, comes down in a Bronco wide receiver's hands, but that only gets it the Broncos to within 2, and they did not convert on the 2-point conversion, so they come up short and blow an 18-point lead from earlier in the game. Josh, congrats. You are Mac Daddy Tweet of the Day winner. All right, you got Johnny Marks, JM, great initiative.
Did you know that Cumberland Farms actually invented coffee? Well, genius, that's the sort of thing you might believe when you forget your morning cup. Don't forget, Cumby's coffee, any size, just $1.29.
Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Strong opinions, great guests, and your phone calls. Expect it here. CBS Sports Radio. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all live, all the time.
Man, we are so live. If we were any more live, we'd be John Marks on CBS Sports Radio. What's up, everybody? Hello, hello. Happy Sunday evening. An excellent weekend of football, excellent day of football in the NFL. And if you're up till, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time watching that Colorado State game last night, as I actually had fallen asleep and then woke up and was able to watch the of it. But anyway, hello, everyone. John Marks on CBS Sports Radio. Quite a day in the NFL, and we'll talk about it. I guess I have to start, unfortunately, with the Giants. They were outscored 60-0 in the first 6 quarters of the season. 60-0. And Manny is my producer tonight, and he's a Giant fan. And I was texting him, and I was like, oh, we got to get a Giant guest on. They're losing 20-0 at half, and boom, 31 points in the second half. Outscored Arizona 17-0 in the fourth quarter, and you felt it. You did. You felt the momentum, and I would have definitely bet. I guess I should have live bet the game, but I was like, yeah, Arizona's cooked, because it was fluky how they were ahead as much as they were ahead. The Giants couldn't do anything right. Similar to what the offense was doing last week against Dallas, except that wasn't Dallas's defense. That was Arizona's defense. And, man, once they got started, Arizona couldn't stop them. 31 points in the second half, and that's it. They get a win. You know, the Giants were staring down the barrel of an 0-2 start, and the Niners on Thursday Night Football. So they have a short week because they're playing on Thursday night against the Niners in San Francisco or in Santa Clara. So that would have been, man, could you imagine? So they got the win, and that's the most important thing. And they didn't get the cover, which I had them actually beating the Cardinals quite easily. But that didn't happen. And give them credit. I got to give Daniel Jones credit. I am not a Daniel Jones fan. I do not think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. He was firing the ball, man. He was fired up. He had confidence. And I think one of the reasons why I was like, the Giants are going to come back and win this game was the way Daniel Jones was playing, both with his arm and his legs. In particular, his arm. He was really firing the ball with a lot of confidence. And if that Daniel Jones shows up on a Sunday or a Monday or a Thursday or whatever, Giants can win some games. So give the New York Football Giants some credit. They beat the Cardinals 31-28. And I was seeing some tweets from some people that I follow in the media, and there was a lot of tweets. Giants are the worst team in the league. Daniel Jones needs to be benched. How long are you going to leave him out there? Because I was thinking the same thing, and then, boom, they come back in the second half. So great game by the Giants. Even me being an Eagles fan has to give it up to the Giants. So good comeback right there. Great comeback by the Giants, not falling to 0-2, going to 1-1 as they traveled to play the 49ers on Thursday night. Speaking of the Niners, man, that game against the Rams was it was an NFC West battle. And I don't think anybody, that's not true. I can say that I didn't think the Rams were going to be much of anything this year. And then Cooper Kupp goes down, and it's like, oh, yeah, Rams. But you know what? They didn't win today. But Matt Stafford, if he can stop making mistakes, and that offense with some young wide receivers, they looked great against Seattle in week 1, and that wasn't a fluke. They had a chance today against a very good San Francisco 49ers team, but Niners are just better. Efficient game by the Niners. Brock Purdy wasn't great. He missed some open receivers on some deep shots, but did what they had to do, got the win. They just have so much talent on that offense. And I said this last week, and it still rings true. You forgot how good Christian McCaffrey was, or at least I did. When they made that trade last year, I questioned it. Because when they made the trade at the trade deadline, it's like, well, what are they doing? All right, they want him for next year. Okay, you can have Christian McCaffrey for next year with making all that money. He's been injured the last couple of years. And, man, has he been on a run. And so have the 49ers. They have. He's one of the best weapons in football, Christian McCaffrey. And he fits perfectly into what Kyle Shanahan and San Francisco wants to do on offense. Takes a lot of pressure off Brock Purdy. And then you throw in Kittle and Ayuk and Debo, and you have a very talented, and not just talented, especially in Shanahan's offense. McCaffrey's, we know his receiving skills. He's like a wide receiver. He's like a slot wide receiver on top of being one of the better running backs in the league. So that is a dangerous, dangerous San Francisco 49er team. One other note on the Giants. Saquon Barkley left that game late, and it didn't look good. You could tell that he was frustrated over on the sideline. It's an ankle sprain. The Giants are saying that it's not a break, it's an ankle sprain. I don't know, Manny. I don't know if that's actually like confirmed or that's just what's out there is it's not a break, it's an ankle sprain. They don't know if it's a low ankle sprain or a high ankle sprain, which sometimes can be even worse than breaking your ankle, depending on the break. But Saquon on a short week, you can just no shot that he's going to play on Thursday night. But if it's a high ankle sprain, that could potentially, depending on the severity, depending on the athlete, that could easily cost you 4 games, maybe a little bit less, maybe more. It depends on the severity of it. So, so that's important to note for the Giants. He's their best weapon on offense. All right, so Dallas rolls the Jets. They have now outscored the city of New York, or I guess northern New Jersey, 70-10 in the last 2 weeks. Rolls the Jets, and as much as you'll look at the box score and you'll say, all right, well, Zach Wilson had 3 interceptions. He didn't give him much of a chance. Who didn't give the Jets a chance today was their defense. They couldn't stop the Dallas Cowboys offense. They couldn't stop them. And it wasn't a lot of, going, 70-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown. It was just run here, pass here, run there, first down, pass here, and just crushing them. 82 offensive snaps or offensive plays for Dallas, 43 for the Jets. Because when you look at the box score, you're like, well, why the hell didn't they run the ball more? They barely ran it, but then you see that Wilson only threw the ball 27 times. It's like, how is that? They almost got doubled up on plays, on offense. Jets, they couldn't get off the field. And they were gassed by the end of the game. But give the Dallas Cowboys credit. You look at San Francisco and you look at Dallas right now. Dallas is the most impressive, looks the most impressive of any team in the league because their defense has been dominant, and on offense, man, Dak hasn't had to do a whole heck of a lot yet. He had a good game today. He was efficient. He was accurate. They were able to run the ball, but the story is the defense. Their story is the defense, and really Dallas's offense was the story again today as well. I mentioned 3 picks for Zach Wilson. Micah Parsons had 2 sacks, including a strip sack, which was an amazing play. 3 tackles for a loss, on top of the tackles that he had as well. So when you're a defensive lineman, and not that you don't get tackles, but really everybody's looking and saying, all right, you're getting sacks. That's what the Bosa's do. That's what the other great sackers do in the NFL. Micah Parsons does more than that, and that's why he potentially could be an MVP. And he's more than just a defensive end. And we know some defensive ends have a great all-around game. We know some of the other guys are just sack specialists. This dude is a game changer. And it hurts me to say this, but the Cowboys, and we're only through 2 weeks, but the Cowboys are the best team in football right now. Brandon Aubrey, who, if you remember last year, their kicker couldn't make extra points. So they grab a dude who was in the USFL. He was a professional soccer player that said, hey, let me get with a kicking coach and see if I can become an NFL kicker. He had 5 field goals, including a 55-yarder, I think, and he looks really good and confident. So far, so great for the Dallas Cowboys. It's been an amazing first 2 weeks of the NFL season. And if you're, if you're looking at everything after 2 weeks, I think everybody for the most part said with the NFC that the best 3 teams in the NFC are the Eagles, the Niners, and the Cowboys. And I think at least the betting odds were in that particular order. Now you can't say that because the Eagles won, but they didn't look good again against not a very good Minnesota Vikings team. And that's after they beat the Patriots in week 1 in not all that impressive fashion. So Eagles are 2-0, and give them credit for being 2-0 because they got the win with them not playing great. But when you compare them right now to the Cowboys and to the Niners, it doesn't even look close right now, which is fine because in 2 months, maybe the Cowboys and the Niners aren't looking like they do right now, and the Eagles are just kicking it in the prime gear. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. John Marks on CBS Sports Radio, at John, Jon Marks, Marks Media, at John Marks Media. We'll do 2 guests earlier in the show, and then once the Sunday night game is over, we'll be finished with that, and we can just take reaction to the NFL as Miami is leading the Patriots 17-3. Miami has the ball in their own territory, but the Patriots have kind of been what the Patriots have been in their first game and really what they looked like last year. And Mac Jones is 15-19, but it's for 104 yards. It's 5.5 yards a throw, right? They just don't have the weapons downfield, or they don't have the quarterback that's able to get it down there. I think it's a little bit of both, but it's more about the talent that they have on offense. So Miami's up 17-3. We will we'll keep you updated on that as we go throughout the night. A brief look at the NFC here, and then we'll take some phone calls on the other side. Kansas City unimpressively wins one, 17-9. Everybody was waiting for this for the offense to kind of be the story of this game, and there was a 7-6 game at the half, and then the Jags could only muster a field goal, and Kansas City scored 10 points. Trevor Lawrence didn't look good today, inaccurate, under pressure. And Mahomes looked good, had a bad interception, but for the most part, it was it was an unimpressive day for the Chiefs, who, like some other teams in the NFL, I mentioned the Eagles, are trying to get it together, trying to get that offense together. Travis Kelce played; he had a touchdown, but just like trying to get it going. Sluggish from the start, sluggish in the first 2 weeks. Fortunate, really, to even have a win and not be 0-2 here, like the Cincinnati Bengals. And Joe Burrow re-aggravated that calf injury that kept him out all of training camp. Does that mean he is going to be out for next week? We're going to see. But they had said that he would have come back out if he had the opportunity for a last drive, but that didn't happen. Okay, what would it look like out there if he would have went out there? Would he have been hopping around on one leg? You know what I mean? This is trouble for the Bengals. This is trouble because this isn't Cincinnati that started 0-2 like they did last year, and you can come back from that. This is 0-2 with Joe Burrow compromised, and that's a problem. If he's not healthy, even if he tries to play through it, I would say that the biggest reason why the Bengals are 0-2 right now is just that Joe Burrow pretty much wasn't there during training camp because of an injury. Offense looked a little bit better today, but still the Ravens beat them 27-24, and they're going to play Monday Night Football, so they have some extra time here, which is a good thing for Joe Burrow. But they have to, and they're hosting the Rams. I'll tell you something about the Rams. The Rams look good. So that's not an easy game. Next Monday night, Cincinnati falls to 0-2. Normally, you lose your first 2 games of the season, you're done. But I'm not counting the Bengals out yet. We'll see with Joe Burrow what this calf injury is. If this is something that continues to linger and he plays, but then he re-aggravates it, it's going to be a long season. All right, one more, and then we'll come back with some phone calls. Tennessee beats the Chargers 27-24. Another close game that Brandon Staley loses as the Chargers head coach. And there's been, early on this year, there's been some things that I've really been right about. There's been some things I've been really wrong about, too. But when I was making my predictions, not one time did I think about putting the Chargers in the playoffs in the AFC. And a lot of people said, why not? And I said, well, listen, I like Justin Herbert, and I don't want to hear about Justin Herbert not, he needs to start winning in the playoffs. He needs to be more of a factor. It just can't be 5,000 yards passing and all these great numbers, and then you come to a big game and he's not there. I'm not pinning any of this on Justin Herbert. He had a good day. This is Brandon Staley. I don't think Brandon Staley's a very good head coach, and the more that you watch the games and the teams, they're 0-2, and there's way too much talent on this team for them to be 0-2 right now. They're at the Vikings next week, so that should be 0-2 Vikings team on the road. So that's no given based on how the Chargers are playing right now, but not how you want to start. And there was a lot of talk, a lot of talk about the Chargers kind of taking that next step this year and maybe even challenging the Chiefs in that division, and that doesn't appear to be happening. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. John Marks on CBS Sports Radio, at John, Jon, Marks, Marks Media. At John Marks Media. We'll come back with some phone calls. Your takeaways from week 2 in the NFL. Dallas Cowboys, are they the best team in football right now? 855-212-4227. Come back with your phone calls. John Marks on CBS Sports Radio.
Did you know that Cumberland Farms actually invented coffee? Well, genius, that's the sort of thing you might believe when you forget your morning cup. Don't forget, Cumby's coffee, any size, just $1.29.
Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
Hey guys, it's DA. Sports, check. Talk, check. Fun, check. The DA Show, 6 to 10 Eastern, CBS Sports Radio.
Back to Johnny Marks on CBS Sports Radio.
All right, we're back. It is John Marks on CBS Sports Radio. Chase Sr. from Chat Sports covers the Niners. Going to join us in 20 minutes from now, 25 minutes, 20 minutes from now with his thoughts on the 49ers with their victory over the Rams today, start 2-0 on the season. Manny Rodriguez, I have to ask you, you're a Giant fan, and I'm sure in the first half you were firing everybody and benching everybody, but now you're probably thinking the Giants can win the Super Bowl or something like that, huh?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, that's definitely the mentality that I had on my I was commuting to work whilst the Giants were playing, and I had to turn it off because I was not dealing with that anymore.
Yeah, my uncle actually texted me, and he lives in the Philly area, but we can get WFAN down here. And he texted me. He said, "You got to turn on WFAN. Gary Papa announcing this Giants disaster." And I was like, Bob Papa, sorry. Gary Papa, I think was his brother and he was down in Philly. But anyway, I didn't turn it on, but I was like, yeah, it's man, I can't believe they're getting crushed like this again. I honestly was surprised. I thought the Giants were going to come in and thump the Cardinals, and frankly, this is even more impressive. The fact that they went down as bad as they did, and they came roaring back like this. This is forward momentum. This is how you pick your season up.
Yeah, I mean, it's these types of wins that can become almost like signature wins during the season, especially for a team that has playoff aspirations. Johnny, in that second half, Daniel Jones threw for over 250 yards. Rushed for another 50-plus yards, threw multiple touchdown passes, rushed for a touchdown, and had no turnovers. No other quarterback in NFL history has done all of that in the second half of a game.
Oh, put him in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, you kidding me?
Congratulations, Daniel Jones. That the head coach of the Cardinals as well, Jonathan Gannon, who was the Eagles defensive coordinator.
You're familiar.
Yeah, but that's totally him. When a quarterback starts catching on fire, he has no adjustments. He made no adjustments in that game. He never made any adjustments when he was the defensive coordinator of the Eagles.
Yeah, the intermediate areas of the field were certainly open for the Giants in that second half.
And give Daniel Jones credit because he was firing the ball. He was very impressive. So give the Giants credit and rip Jonathan Gannon and the Cardinals because they were right there. Giants could have been 0-2 going to San Francisco. Would have made my entire weekend. All right, so Chase is going to join us at 10:45, and then Manny was able to grab Parker Gabriel, who is the beat reporter. He covers the Broncos for the Denver Post. What a terrible team the Broncos are. I mean, I'm sorry. What an absolutely brutal team. They almost lucked out by getting a Hail Mary that would have tied the game with a 2-point conversion, but then the 2-point conversion failed, and they should have called a penalty on it. Cortland Sutton was easily held by the defender. But, who cares? They got lucky on the Hail Mary. The ball got batted 3 times. It was short of the end zone. So you can't, not that a Hail Mary, you give them credit for a Hail Mary. It was a luckily Hail Mary than you normally get. And so we'll talk to Parker about that. 0-2. And they start both games at home, losing to the Raiders, who were a last-place team last year. And I don't think they're good. And then losing to the Commanders with Sam Howell. And Sam Howell actually looked pretty good. I'll give him credit. But, Sean Payton, he's a genius, making a ton of money. I'm shocked that they've started 0-2. And I wonder how long it is before Russell Wilson is going to be whacked as the starting quarterback of the Broncos. He wasn't terrible today, but he wasn't good. Numbers are going to be a little bit deceiving just based on that Hail Mary, which was 50 yards and the touchdown. But Russell Wilson's not a difference maker right now, and Sean Payton's not going to have time for him. That's for sure. He's not going to have time for that. All right, let's take some phone calls here. We'll go to Rich. Rich is in Chicago. Rich, you're on CBS Sports Radio. What's up, buddy?
Hey, John. How are you?
How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Hey, I want to point out a couple things. since you're an Eagle guy in Philly.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of interesting. The media, and obviously the Bears are an NFC team too, but we don't want to talk about those guys. That's not all to talk about. But anyway, the media consensus for the past couple of years has been the AFC superiority over the NFC. And I think you mentioned this earlier, that when you take a look at the Dallas 49ers and the Eagles, you can make an argument that they are the top three teams in the NFL right now.
I wouldn't agree with the Eagles just because they're not playing great, but yeah, absolutely. You're right. Yeah. The 49ers and the Cowboys are the best team in football right now.
Well, let me throw this out. I knew you'd probably say that because most people do, but I looked at the next 6 games on the Eagles' schedule. They're all soft teams. They could easily win the next 6. I mean,
they could be 6. Well, they could be 6-0. Their first 6 games were they needed to finish 4-2, worst case scenario, 5-1. But then Aaron Rodgers goes out because the Jets are the 5th game and we're the 6th game, and that becomes significantly easier without Aaron Rodgers.
Well, yeah, the only team in the next 6 that would, I think, be competitive would be the Dolphins.
At the Rams is not going to be an easy game.
Well, really, you really think the Rams can compete with the Eagles?
Yeah, Eagles haven't looked good, man.
They're young.
Well, I'm not telling you that I don't think that they'll figure it out in time. But so they're at the Bucs next Monday Night Football. They're home against the Commanders. Commanders are 2-0. I'm not worried about that. But then they're at the Rams and at the Jets. I'm just telling you, that Rams game's, I don't see that being easy. At the Jets, home against the Dolphins. So this is where you gotta listen to the schedule with the Eagles, and this is why they have to do so well during this stretch. So they're home against the Cowboys, at the Chiefs, home against the Bills, home against the Niners, at the Cowboys, at the Seahawks. And then they're playing the Giants. Who knows what the Giants are going to look like right there. But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 6 games against the better teams in of their conferences. It's going to be tough.
I was talking about the next 6. They could easily be 8-0 or 7-1.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that you have to be during that stretch because, and appreciate it, Rich, because it's so difficult after that. Yeah, I just went over the schedule. They play the Buccaneers, the Commanders, all right? And then the Eagles have the Rams and the Jets. Rams are not going to be pushovers. The Rams are good. I'm impressed with the Rams. We'll see what Matt Stafford turns into, but those 2 young wide receivers they have. The Jets, you know what? I don't know how to call the Jets right now. I guess if you just look at Zach Wilson, you're like, all right, well, if he doesn't figure this out, then the Jets aren't going to be very good. And I would tend to agree. Dolphins won't be an easy game. And then you're at the Commanders. And it's so hard in a division to win all your division games, even if you think that you're superior to that team. They lost to the Commanders last year. It's the Eagles' first loss. And they're 2-0 this season. But Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks. At the Cowboys, at the Seahawks. It's a Sunday night game, and then it is the following Sunday, Fox 4:25 Eastern game. The big game. And we'll see what the Seahawks look like then. Let's go to Tim. Tim's calling from North Carolina. Tim, you're on CBS Sports Radio. What up, man?
How's it going?
Hi, Tim.
Listen, so I'm a Duke Blue Devils fan. And if you know anything about Daniel Jones, you remember he was a quarterback for Duke.
Yeah.
And much like the Giants team, Daniel Jones played for a team in the Blue Devils that were awful around him. He was the best player on the team. And some things never change. And it could be debatable about Barkley and how good he is. But Daniel Jones plays with, or at least played with, no wide receivers, worst offensive line in the league. How are you supposed to evaluate a quarterback when you're surrounded by no talent?
It's tough. You're right.
You keep talking. You're an Eagle guy, aren't you?
Yep.
Put Jalen Hurts in that situation. You think you'd be talking about Jalen Hurts as one of the better quarterbacks in the league?
To your point, what the Eagles did and what the Dolphins did, not this offseason, last offseason, is they said, hey, we got to figure out about our quarterback. And by the way, we need better offense. We need better talent on offense. So the Dolphins, they drafted Jalen Waddle the year before that, but they went out and they traded for Tyreek Hill and signed him to a new contract. The Eagles had drafted Devontae Smith, and they went out and they traded for A.J. Brown. So to your point, the difference between the skill positions of those teams and what the Giants has is remarkable. It really is.
Well, there you go. There's your answer now.
Okay, that doesn't mean
you can't judge a book by its cover, can you?
But here's what we can do. We can do the best with the information that we have, right? And before last season, and maybe it was the first time he actually had a capable coach appreciated him in Brian Daboll. And I think that's what you have to give Daboll credit for last year, for saying, like, hey, how can I win with the skill that we have, with the offense that we have, and with Daniel Jones, who really is, the Giants didn't pick up his option because they're like, no, we don't know if we want him long term. And that's how he got a new contract. But we'll see. We'll see. I still don't believe in him. He looked good today. He looked good in the second half. He looked confident. He was making throws. He really was. But we will see how he looks. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. You say I'm an Eagle guy, you're biased. You're right. I am biased. I do not like the New York Giants. Manny Rodriguez. I've never been bashful about that.
I don't like you.
Right, I know. I don't like you. Just and like I can also be somewhat objective when it comes to it, but I've never believed in Daniel Jones. I really haven't. Just throwing the football, and you know what? He looked really good today. 855-212-4CBS. Your reaction to Week 2: are the Cowboys the best team in football? We'll come back and talk about the 49ers, their win over the Rams, with Chase Sr. of Chat Sports. But let's get the latest CBS Sports Radio update. Here's Peter Schwartz.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Now we kick off with Sunday Night Football. There in the third quarter, Dolphins on top of the Patriots 17-3. Elsewhere, Commanders 35, Broncos 33. The Cowboys beat the Jets 30-10. Niners 30, Rams 23. The Giants over the Cardinals 31-28. A game the Giants trailed 28-7. In overtime, Titans 27, Chargers 24. The Bucs over the Bears 27-17. Chiefs top the Jaguars 17-9. Ravens 27, Bengals 24. The Bengals are 0-2 for the second straight year. In overtime, Seahawks 37, Lions 31. The Colts over the Texans 31-20. Bills 38, Raiders 10. Falcons get by the Packers 25-24. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson with 2 touchdown runs in the game today, but he suffered a concussion in the first quarter, had to leave. College football, the AP Top 10, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Florida State, USC, Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, Notre Dame, and Oregon. Alabama drops to 13 out of the top 10 for the first time in 8 years. Now to baseball. Diamondbacks 6, Cubs 2, Dodgers over the Mariners 6-1, Tigers 5, Angels 3. Padres beat the A's 10-1. In 11, Nationals 2, Brewers 1. The Twins over the White Sox 4-0. Cardinals 6, Phillies 5. Giants beat the Rockies 11-10. Astros 7, Royals 1. The Pirates beat the Yankees 3-2. Marlins pound the Braves 16-2. Jazz Chisholm with a grand slam. Mets over the Reds 8-4. Blue Jays 3, Red Sox 2. Guardians over the Rangers 9-2. And in 11, the Orioles beat the Rays 5-4. The Orioles clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2016. Hockey, Blue Jackets head coach Mike Babcock announcing his resignation without ever coaching a game for Columbus. He resigns after an investigation into whether or not he violated players' privacy when he asked to see photos on their cell phones. I'm Peter Schwartz.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, at home, in your car, and of course on your phone and tablet. Find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
This is Zach Gelb, and we bring you compelling sports talk and the biggest names in sports, weekdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific, on CBS Sports Radio.
Did you know that Cumberland Farms actually invented coffee? Well, genius, that's the sort of thing you might believe when you forget your morning cup. Don't forget, Cumby's coffee, any size, just $1.29.
Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
This is Jim Rome. Join me in the jungle for your phone calls and the biggest names in sports. Stop by weekdays, noon until 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific.
It's John Marks on CBS Sports Radio.
All right, John Marks, we are back, CBS Sports Radio, as the 49ers and the Rams, a very entertaining game. Niners get the win. They now 2-0 on the season, and maybe, one of the more dominant teams or the most impressive teams through 2 weeks to discuss as our buddy Chase Sr. He covers the 49ers for Chat Sports, and he joins us right now. What's up, Chase?
Johnny Marks, always good to catch up with you, man. A great NFL Sunday today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so week one, you can make the argument it was the Niners or the Cowboys that had the most dominant performance. The Rams were also very good. So the Niners and Rams today, and I thought the Rams played well except for the turnovers. But 49ers they weren't making mistakes, and Brock Purdy did what he had to do, and they win 30-23. Your takeaways and your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think we've continued to see that Brock Purdy kind of operates as an extension to head coach Kyle Shanahan, and they seem to be in a really good groove with one another as far as play calling, play designs go, and Shanahan seems to put him in a position to be successful. I will say that I thought that Brock Purdy today maybe played his worst game as a pro. There were multiple deep shots in which he missed that could have gone for touchdowns to Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Jawan Jennings, but in that intermediate area, he was able to really make every single throw. And San Francisco, just as a team, week one, physically overpowered Pittsburgh. And I thought that as the game wore on, they were just a far superior team. And then in this game against the Rams, you saw in the first half, I think San Francisco's defense wanted to feel it out a little bit with their coverage. And because of that, Matthew Stafford was patient, able to take what the defense gave him. But then once again, very similar to week one, even though this game was closer, you just saw the Niners' talent win out. And when they have so many premium players on both sides of the ball, they can just suffocate you throughout the course of a 60-minute game. And I think that's what kind of led to the Rams free-falling a little bit, turn the football over in a couple of inopportune times, and San Francisco's talent able to win out today.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right. Purdy did miss, and they made mention to it on the broadcast because I was watching Red Zone, and they highlighted the 49ers game quite a bit. But Purdy missed out on a couple gimmies. Overall, first 2 weeks, how would you say that Purdy has played, considering he had Tommy John surgery essentially just a couple months ago?
I think that he's looked really good, and it's pretty miraculous. He undergoes that surgery back in March, and then he was full go for the start of training camp. And they kind of had him on a little bit of a pitch count throughout camp. But as far as velocity goes, first day of practice, he's chucking balls 45, 50 yards downfield. They manage him well. We see him in the preseason. He actually got some extended action in the second and third preseason game, and the velocity has been there. The quick decision-making has been there. He makes these improvisational plays, which are really impressive, and he's able to make plays out of structures. So as far as his health, he looks really, really good. Same guy as last year, if not maybe a little bit more confident because he has this silent swagger to him. But now that he has another year or more experience under his belt in this offense, he really seems to be finding a groove. And even the misses that he did miss, like he knew, shoot, I should have hit that guy. And he admitted after the game, I could have been better. But as far as the health goes, arm looks just fine.
Yeah, it does. Talking to Chase Sr., who really does a great job covering the 49ers and the Eagles for Chat Sports during the games. He has a watch party. He does a YouTube show every day covering the team. So going back to last year when John Lynch made the trade for Christian McCaffrey, I remember coming on CBS Sports Radio and saying, well, what are they doing? Like, they gave up way too much. Why are they trying to get Christian McCaffrey? He's been injured the last couple years. And then you realize what John Lynch was trying to do. He's one of the best weapons in the NFL, just like he was before the injuries kind of got him off his path. But McCaffrey, I mean, especially in a Kyle Shanahan offense, man, he may look better than he did when he was in Carolina coming up those first couple years.
I think you're right. And in Kyle Shanahan's outside zone scheme, all the way back to his pops calling plays for the Denver Broncos and the long NFL career that he had that was very successful as a play caller or a head coach, that outside zone power running scheme just allows really any running back to be successful. But with Christian McCaffrey, he has such a special blend of size, balance, elusiveness, home run speed. His footwork is incredible, and that really helps him out as a runner to make guys miss, but also as a receiver coming out of the backfield. But he can legitimately line up in the slot, and with his footwork as a receiver, he looks like Cooper Kupp out there. So with McCaffrey, back-to-back years in which he was an all-pro player, 2018, 2019, he's hurt for a lot of 2020, 2021 because of that fantasy football world that we live in, short mindset, short memory. I think people forgot just how talented he is. And then last year he comes to the Niners, and they averaged 30 points per game when he became the starter. And now San Francisco, since that point, has won 12 straight regular season games. And he's been a really big part of that. That's the second best stretch in Niners franchise history for an organization that's obviously had a lot of success in winning 5 Super Bowls. And I don't look at him as a running back, John. I look at him as an overall weapon. And if you can find just elite playmakers and cater to their strengths, you can use them like Christian McCaffrey as a running back and as a wide receiver. He's changed the entire look of this Niners offense, and they've gone into this phase where they're just pumping out explosive plays left and right, and McCaffrey looks like the best running back in the league right now.
Man, he looks so good. All right, so defense. I know you gave up 23 points to the Rams in the NFL in 2023. Isn't too shabby, and I'm surprised the Rams are as good as they've looked the first 2 weeks. Overall, how do you think the defense has played today and in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, the first game, I thought that Pittsburgh was just dominated in the trenches. San Francisco really manhandled them with a defensive line that I think can go too deep. I actually think what we're looking at here is a better Rams team than what we thought. Everybody thought that they were going to be tanking for Caleb Williams and they were going to be awful this year. They have a really young roster with a lot of young players on it, but they go on the road week 1 and they beat a Seattle team pretty handily, and they pitched a shutout in the second half, and they did not give up a sack in that game. Matthew Stafford looks as healthy as he's been in a long time. And then Seattle, after that loss, they go on the road and beat a really good Lions team on the road in week 2. So I think this Rams team is a little bit better. Their offensive line was awful last year. I think they've shored that up a little bit. San Francisco struggled to get a consistent pass rush against the Rams, and that's why Los Angeles was able to stay in it. And I think when you kind of couple that with Stafford looking healthy, they had this Puka Nacua guy who they drafted in the 5th round out of BYU. He looks like a Cooper Kupp type of player. Tutu Atwell, they drafted him 2 years ago. He's a really explosive player. So I think we're just looking at a Rams team that's a little bit better than what we anticipated. And we saw the Niners defense struggle a little bit with them containing their weapons. Stafford unable to get that pass rush. If the Niners can't get that pass rush home, as far as, looking ahead into the future, a little bit concerned. But Nick Bosa, no sacks up to this point, first 2 games of the year. He has to be a little bit better, but I think he's working himself into shape. When you have a guy like him, Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga, like they have dogs all over the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be fine. But today, a little bit worrisome. But then they made some adjustments after halftime in which they were really, really good in that second half.
All right, so Chase, the Niners are on the short week, but it is from home, taking on the Giants. The Giants were staring down the barrel of an 0-2 start with a Thursday night game in San Francisco. They had a miraculous comeback today. It's pretty interesting. You go Giants, and then you have the Cardinals, and then you have the Cowboys. It's not an easy schedule, but the 49ers certainly look like it. And I think most people said this. I saw this conference being the Eagles, the Niners, and the Cowboys in that order. And through the first 2 weeks, I would say that slipped a little bit. And the Niners certainly and the Cowboys today looked impressive again. Only through 2 games, but, even better than I expected out of the Niners.
I agree. Yeah, going into this year, I like those 3 teams in the NFC, and then I really like the Detroit Lions as well. I'll give them credit for that Week 1 win, even though Travis Kelce and Chris Jones didn't play. I just think they have a really sound offense, an offense that puts up a lot of points, and their defense is pretty solid. So if you want to kind of rank, the 3 teams who are still undefeated in the Eagles, Cowboys, Niners, I'd say the Niners have looked like the most well-rounded team. I'd say the Cowboys are second there, and Philadelphia, because they haven't found that groove offensively, might be the 3rd best team. What I love about Philadelphia is just how mentally tough they are. I think that's a testament to Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, the culture that they've built, but also their leader in Jalen Hurts. And I like the Eagles style because they can muddy the game up and win a low-scoring affair, or if you want to light up the scoreboard and play at a frenetic pace, they have the weapons to be able to do that. I think they just missed Shane Steichen in the early going, and they're trying to find that offensive continuity, which they had in a great form last year.
Yeah, I agree, Chase. And since you do cover the Eagles for Chat Sports as well, and you do you do your YouTube videos and all your coverage with that, just another question on the Eagles. And I agree with you. The fact that the Eagles have won their first 2 games of the season and they haven't looked good in those games, and just knowing that at some point this season there's too much talent to where that offense isn't going to figure it out. But it's going to be tough because the Cowboys are also very good, and if you don't win the division, then you're faced with being the 5th seed, and you will get 1 home playoff game, but you're going to have to win 2 playoff games on the road, and that's really, really tough. So going up against the Cowboys is going to be difficult, but the Eagles are going to figure it out. They're way too talented not to. And I agree with you. Watching Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, and before he got the concussion, but the first 2 weeks, Shane Steichen seems like he has a really good idea of what he's doing with that young quarterback. And the new offensive coordinator of the Eagles, Brian Johnson, I think him and Jalen, they're working on it right now. And just give them a couple of weeks, give them a couple games, and I think they're going to look a lot better.
I agree. Far too talented to struggle this much. I also kind of look at the Eagles' schedule to start. Like, Bill Belichick had all offseason to plan for this Philadelphia offense. So he planned for them all offseason for week 1. And then in week 2, the defensive coordinator for Minnesota was Brian Flores, who's a Bill Belichick disciple. So I thought that they did some things to really bother Philadelphia to a certain degree. But once they started to run it with DeAndre Swift, I think they found that rhythm. They found that groove. They found a secret weapon who is unacceptable to only give him 2 touches in week 1. But now you have another guy on this offense in Swift who can pop off for 175 like that. I like where Philadelphia is right now, and to be 2-0 at this point, despite playing C-level football, you'll take that any day.
For sure. Chase_senior. That's how you find him on Twitter and Chat Sports. So just go on YouTube and search that, and you will find Chase and his fantastic coverage of both the 49ers and the Eagles. Chase, always a pleasure, my friend. Great to talk to you.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks.
All right, buddy. All right. Thanks, Chase.
Awesome. Yep.
See you, man.
No problem. Take care.
All right, there's Chase Senior of Chat Sports, as the Dolphins just scored a touchdown, and they've now taken a 2-touchdown lead. Mostert with the touchdown. Damn it, I don't think I had him in the one. I have him in 2 leagues, 2 fantasy leagues, Manny, and I don't think I put him in the. He just hadn't been getting enough carries. It's tough, but. So Miami's looking to go up by 2 touchdowns here over New England with 8 minutes to go, 8:45 to go in the fourth quarter. Peter Schwartz will probably give you the final score update coming up here in about a half hour or so. But looking like New England's going to fall to 0-2, and the Dolphins start at 2-0, and this is more or less what people were projecting. Bills won today. They started off slow, but then they really beat up on the Raiders. But then you look at the Jets without Aaron Rodgers, and if you're the Dolphins, you're like, all right, we thought we were a good team anyway. Now without Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, could this be our division? I mean, that's the way I'd be feeling right now too. Miami has a lot of talent. Tua can stay healthy and keeps playing like this. Patriots aren't going to be very good either. All right, coming up, hour number 2. Takeaways from week 2 in the NFL. That's coming up next. John Marks, CBS Sports Radio. Don't go anywhere.
You can forget your password or your keys. You can even forget your kids.
Dad?
But one thing you don't forget is delicious Cumberland Farms coffee.
Just $1.29. Any size, any way you like it. Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
CBS Sports Radio, your home for all things sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, coast to coast, and streaming online at CBSSportsRadio.com. Great sports talk expected here. CBS Sports Radio. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all live, all the time.
I just tried to buy as much time as possible. Kind of scampered left, kind of stepped up, picked guys on the right, came back left, and just, put it up in the air for our guys to go get it. And they did it. We did a great job, did it perfect, and Brandon comes down with the touchdown, which was huge. And then obviously we had the 2-point conversion.
Broncos country, let's ride. That's Russell Wilson in a loss. And we're back. We're going to talk to Parker Gabriel, not Peter Gabriel, the musician, Parker Gabriel. He covers the Broncos for the Denver Post. Broncos actually, they had an 18-point lead that they gave up, they blew, at home to the Washington Commanders and Sam Howell. They have now lost games at home. You think about this. If you're and Parker Gabriel is going to join us coming up here in 15 minutes. And this is John Marshall on CBS Sports Radio. Hello. You think about this. When you get the schedule release, right? Like every fan base out there, I know I do it with the Eagles. You can't wait to see when you're going to play this team or when you're going to play that team, how it lines up, right? And you get the schedule, and you're a Bronco fan. And you're like, all right, Russell Wilson sucked last year, but Sean Payton's coming in, and, man, he's going to turn everything around. And I even believe that somewhat. I didn't think the Broncos were going to win anything this year, but did I think that they could win 9 or 10 games? Yeah, I did. And you line up, you get the schedule. Home against the Raiders. Oh, that's a win. Home against the Commanders. Oh, that's a win. You're starting 2-0. Now you're going to look at your schedule and be like, all right, it's exactly what this team needs to get started and get hot early. And then you lose to the Raiders, and then you lose to the Commanders, both on your home field. It's unbelievable. It really is. Russell Wilson had a fumble. They were up 18. Russell Wilson fumbled. They had a couple of 3-and-outs, and then he threw a pick, and that was it. Washington took over from there. Boom. That's all in the second half, third quarter, really. Broncos defense wasn't good. But Russell Wilson, very average. You'll look at the 33 points. It's fluky. You'll look at he threw for over 300 yards. It's fluky. There was a 50-yard Hail Mary. They lost the game because they had a 2-point conversion, and the defender was all over Cortland Sutton. There should have been a flag call, but there wasn't. So the game was over. But the Hail Mary, boom, touchdown, but they couldn't tie it on the 2-point conversion. They didn't deserve to win that game. And I'd be beside myself right now if I was a Bronco fan. Sean Payton, bottom line, dude, you won a Super Bowl. I think that you're a good offensive coach. But, you're supposed to come in. And remember, Sean Payton, you brought up the old coach's name. You brought him up by name, right? Or maybe he didn't actually say his name. But he ripped him. He talked about what a job he did last year. Totally unnecessary. Totally uncalled for. Did he ever call him like he said he was going to do it and apologize? I know he hadn't. And they're gonna face each other this year anyway. Nathaniel Hackett with the Jets now, but I thought it was low class to do it because he was coming in though, and he's Bill Parcells, and he's gonna make a point. I'm turning this team around. I'm gonna come in here and kick these guys in the behind, right? This is me. And then they come out and they start 0-2. Maybe they have a great turnaround this year. We'll see. But what a terrible start for the Broncos. And you wonder, and this is what I want to find out from Parker Gabriel when he joins us, if this continues, then it's a bad year. Because what I saw, I was trying to read some of the local news and the blogs on the Broncos, and there's a lot of tank for Caleb Williams talk that's going on in Denver. That sounds like fun. I wish I was a part of that. Eagles, even though they've struggled to start the year, we feel like we have a pretty good team. Man, Russell Wilson's not it. Can he be an average to a slightly above average quarterback? Yeah, he can. But nope, he's not it. So this seems like it's going to Seems like it's going to be a bad year for Denver. All right, so that's coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. Let's get a couple phone calls, including Mike from Dallas. Mike, you're on CBS Sports Radio as the Cowboys beat the Jets today in dominating fashion. How are you, Mike?
Hey, I'm doing all right. I talked to you a few weeks ago, and man, I you said what?
Huh?
I'm just hoping that Daniel Jones is in New York for the next 20 years, man. I just hope that he stays and never goes away. I love that he's the New York Giants quarterback, and your producer 2 weeks ago took him over Dak, and I just wonder how he feels now after seeing him play football.
Oh, well, so you're talking about Sean Marash, who it was not Manny Rodriguez that did that. So you'd have to ask them. But I'm not worried about Daniel Jones. I'm worried about your quarterback, Mike. You know why? Because this has been low pressure that Dak Prescott, how he's been operating as the quarterback, because the defense has been so dominant. And they had a good day offensively today. I'm not telling you that they didn't. But until your quarterback, Dak Prescott, shows up in the big games against the other big quarterbacks, you're not winning squat. So he's got to prove it this year. So you should feel good after 2 weeks. Your team's, in my opinion, the best team in the league right now if I was doing a power ranking. All right? But it's still only week 2, so that gets you squat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's flying under the radar, taking care of the football.
All right, your phone stinks. But thank you. Let's go to Greg in Michigan. Greg, how are you, buddy? What's going on? You're on CBS Sports Radio.
Johnny, Mr. Positive, hopefully you're having a great weekend or a great week. Hopefully it's been fantastic. Oh, my God. Joe Burrows, I think I mentioned this about a month ago. He's not going to come back fully from this calf problem.
You know what, man? And I was worried that he was coming back too early because he wanted to start the regular season. It looks like he did because he's re-aggravated it. Well, I guess we'll find out how bad. But this is how you have a terrible season. He never actually gets healthy. He keeps trying to play through it, and he never heals.
And I'm glad that my Josh Elvis Allen redeemed himself from last week. And, I mean, I got to ask you, Johnny, Deion Sanders, is he going to change the game the way it's played? Doesn't he remind you a little bit of Vince Lombardi? He's got that attitude. People are drawn to him. Am I being a little bit too
live in the moment,
if you will?
Live in the moment, Greg.
Yes.
Why not? Why not? And I've heard I heard Jody talking about it before I jumped on, to where he and I think like Jody's got a point, and I don't necessarily disagree with him. He's more or less like, yeah, let's see Deion do it for more than 2 games, right? That was Colorado State that they beat last night. But I'll tell you what, it's been a hell of a 2 games, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Man,
now,
he's the story. He's the story in college football.
Is it 2 or 3 games?
Did they win 3 games? Yeah, 3. You're right. Last night was the same. Yeah, because I mean TCU was a very impressive win. I know a lot of people are circling that Oregon game. Bottom line is the dude has come in and made Colorado relevant for the first time in how many years?
Yes, Johnny. Hey, thanks for taking my call. Mr. Positive wants everyone to go for your dreams. Love you, Johnny.
All right, Greg. Good to talk to you, buddy. Thank you. Yeah, and we're I don't believe we're local in Dallas right now because the Sunday night game is 5 minutes from being over. New England did score a touchdown, so they've cut it to a 7-point game. About 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Miami needs a first down. They need some points because otherwise New England's going to put the pressure on them, and Miami goes on their heels. I was just pronouncing the New England Patriots dead and Bill Belichick fired. And now what? Mostert has 2 touchdowns in this game too. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to sleep. I don't think I had him I didn't think I had him in the lineup in fantasy leagues. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Anyway, yeah, I mean Deion is for being a 10 o'clock game last night. I actually fell asleep. I woke up. My youngest, my 2-year-old, was screaming. She's got her 2-year molars coming in. And so she was screaming at like 12:30. It woke me up, and it got me a chance to watch the end of the game, which was awesome. It really was. And it's Colorado State. It's not like it's anything. And by the way, I still don't even know the coach of Colorado State. Manny, did you know his name?
Before Thursday? No, I didn't.
Like I still don't know his name, and I made sure that I didn't write it down because I'm not going to need to know his name again.
Trying to make a statement.
Right. Well, I mean, like, the game was actually competitive. His guys showed up to play.
Did they ever?
But, like, it's just, like, I would just say this. The last thing you want to do is instigate Dion in that team. What I would do is I would overly praise him and talk about how great he is. The other thing, that coach, if you heard his comments, he was saying to take your hat off, take your sunglasses off, while he was wearing a visor. So he was actually wearing a hat on his radio show, or a visor at least. Does visor count as a hat? Is that why he thinks that you should take your hat off?
This was such a conversation on Maggie and Perloff last week.
I can imagine
on Friday.
Oh, on national radio. I mean, I wanted to talk about it in Philly.
Well, is it a visor, or is a visor a hat?
No, it's just like Dion's different. You can't, like, if you don't get that and you're mad about it, then you lose. And so you lose, and it was a hell of a game. But, like, Dion is extremely intelligent, and him wearing the sunglasses and the hat, that's part of his act, I would say, right? It's effective. It really, when he went to Jackson State, I wasn't sure what the hell was going to happen. But then he won there. And then, like, I remember when he was being talked about, Florida State should have hired him, by the way. They didn't. I remember they were talking about him with Colorado, and he was interested. And I'm like, you know what? That is awesome that he's going to go to Colorado. Colorado sucks. And he's willing to go to Colorado and try to turn that program around, which he's done, at least in the first 3 weeks. They're 3-0, and they're as relevant as any team in college football right now. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. John Marks on CBS Sports Radio, at John, Jon, Marks, Marks Media, at John Marks Media. All right, coming up next, Parker Gabriel covers the Broncos for the Denver Post, is going to join us. 0-2 at home, both to last place teams from last year. What is going on with the Broncos? We'll find out coming up next. John Marks on CBS Sports Radio.
You can forget your password or your keys. You can even forget your kids.
Dad?
But one thing you don't forget is delicious Cumberland Farms coffee.
Just $1.29. Any size, any way you like it. Plus tax. Prices higher in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket locations.
This is DA Damon Amendolara. You want sports, you want talk, and we've got them both. The DA Show, 6 to 10 Eastern, only on CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to John Marks on CBS Sports Radio.
All right, we're back. It is John Marks on CBS Sports Radio. Parker Gabriel covers the Broncos for the Denver Post in a minute as the Dolphins, in Tua fashion, it's 3rd and 1. He fumbles the snap, making it 4th and 4 maybe, and they go for a 50-plus yard field goal, and it's no good. Earlier in the game, the Dolphins were going for the field goal, and the Patriots, they had one of their special teams players coming, like he was all the way over kind of by the sideline, and then he went in motion as he was anticipating the snap, and then he was free to the kicker, and he blocked it. So this dude's doing the same thing on this kick, and it's clearly affecting the vision of who is, I don't even know his name. Sorry, I'm not up on the kicker's name for the Dolphins, but he missed it. It was the 50-plus yarder. He missed it. So the Patriots have a chance here coming down less than a minute to go. They're up by a touchdown, and they use their final timeout. And they're down by 7. It's 4th down at, and I don't know if that was a catch or not. So they're going to be going for a 4th down here. Jason Sanders, thank you, Manny, the kicker for the Dolphins. Yeah, so, I mean, Tua fumbling that snap and then missing the field goal could have made it a 10-point game. I would have probably went for it on 4th down. I just didn't feel good about the kick. I don't know anything about the Sanders guy either, but I just didn't feel good about the kick. So he missed it, gave the Patriots good field position, and as I wrote off the franchise, they have come back and they actually have a shot. They had a shot last week against the Eagles. They really did. They just missed converting the 4th down. It would have put them inside the 10-yard line. And it was incomplete, and game was over. So, because he was out of bounds. So then there's a lot happening on the final play right here. It looks like they just converted a 4th down, which they did, where Hunter Henry caught the ball shy of the 1st down. As he is being pulled backwards, he threw the ball, lateraled it backwards to a lineman who went about Cole Strange, it looks like, who went about 2 yards and was able to pick up the 1st down. I would argue his forward momentum was stopped, but that's because I'm rooting for the Patriots to lose this game for multiple reasons. So, yeah, it looks like it's a 1st down. So Peter Schwartz will update you on that coming up here. If there's something happens here, then and something will happen here. Oh, so it was Mike Gesicki. It wasn't Hunter Henry. Anyway, Patriots are still alive. Last week they somehow were able to come back, and they were that close to doing it. So and it would be they've been close in both games. I mean, it is it's interesting. And like I've said this before about Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is he the best coach in the league? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, like, he's right. He's in the conversation with whoever you consider being the best coach in the league and whatnot. But the GM Bill Belichick has gotten the coach Bill Belichick in hot water, because even if they were to win this game, and even if they win 9 games this year, 10 games this year, which I don't think anybody really expects at this point, you have to look at the talent that's on that team, and just with the roster and the draft picks and free agents and things like that, it is, it's tough. It's tough to win in the NFL when you don't have Tom Brady, and now you have to have another quarterback, and it's like, oh, it's not as easy when you don't have Tom Brady, or it's impossible when you don't have Tom Brady and you have Mac Jones and you have average at best skill positions. So they're looking this play over to see if he actually did get the 1st down. So they're reviewing it up in the booth. So he's there, Manny. He's not up on my call screener. Could you punch him up? Okay. Parker Gabriel covers the Broncos for the Denver Post, and as the Broncos now fall to 0-2 on the season, and he joins us right now. Parker, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. So I guess you're coming from the game here. What did you expect coming into the season? I know with the way Russell Wilson looked last year, but Sean Payton comes in, and, man, did he talk a good game. He even talked smack on the old regime and the old coach. And you look at how the schedule was setting up to start the season, home against the Raiders, last-place team last year, home against the Commanders, last-place team last year. You're expecting it's going to be a 2-0 start, and now you start the season 0-2.
Yeah, exactly right. I picked them to win both games, so I suppose I was in the crowd that expected them to start. But I also, the thing about it now looking forward, Johnny, is like that you needed a fast start if you're the Broncos to think about being in position. And it's not just about the fact that 0-2 teams have a long road to hoe in terms of making the postseason, but like you say, 2 home games against 2 teams that get the old sort of winnable game tag. Now you get to go to Miami next weekend. They play Chicago in week 4, and then they have the Jets at home in week 5. That game obviously looks a little bit different with Aaron Rodgers being out, but that starts a stretch where you've got the Jets, you've got Kansas City twice in 17 days, you got Buffalo coming out of a bye week. Like, it does not get easier for Denver. And so this was sort of like, hey, if you start 3-1 and beat Vegas, Washington, and Chicago, who knows? Maybe you get to 9. Maybe you're knocking on the door of a wild card. But at 0-2 with what they have to deal with going forward, it's obviously too early to say, all hope is lost. But they've really put themselves in a tough spot in terms of trying to have a productive year.
So how much you put this on how much of this goes on the coach, Sean Payton?
Yeah, I think quite a bit. Obviously guys have to make plays, and last week, very different style games. Last week they could not buy an explosive play. They had the ball a lot. They weren't altogether inefficient offensively, but it was dink and dunk the whole game. And it would be fair to say, hey, we need somebody to make a play. At the same time, you've got Sean Payton, he does the onside kick to start the game. 1,000 things have to go right for that to work. 999, but the last one didn't. And, you give Vegas the ball at the plus 45 and they go score a touchdown to open the game. And then, this week, there's still things you can point to. Obviously, they didn't play well offensively after scoring touchdowns on their first 3 drives. But Marvin Mims has 2 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown, a 60-yard catch, a 54-yard catch, and a 45-yard punt return in the first 17 minutes of the game. They didn't target him after that. So there's still kinks they're trying to work out. They were a mess offensively after the hot start. And defensively, Vance Joseph is back here in Denver. He's the defensive coordinator, and they really struggled on defense today. So they've got a lot to figure out, and, it does. It starts with coaching and trying to have a plan that guys can go execute.
Parker Gabriel covers the Broncos for the Denver Post. You can follow him on Twitter. It's at Parker J. Gabriel here on CBS Sports Radio. All right, so they're fortunate. They get a 50-yard Hail Mary to put the game to within 2 points, and then they don't get the 2-point conversion. I think it's fair to say the defender was all over Cortland Sutton, so there's not really any – it should have been called. It wasn't, but they were fortunate to be in that situation as it was. 33 points, and you look at Russell Wilson's final numbers, and it's like, oh, we had a good game. It's kind of fluky, right? Like, how would you rate Russell's performance not only today but also in the first game for his first 2 games?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's a really interesting situation because his numbers look pretty good. And if you're comparing it to the way he played last year, he's playing quite a bit better. But at the same time, last week there were two or three plays that it's just like you just got to have. Cortland Sutton wide open on a deep dig route when you're trying to go score and take the lead back in the fourth quarter and you throw it in the dirt. Marvin Mims, walks into the end zone on 3rd and goal, and you don't inexplicably don't throw it. Same thing tonight. They got off to such a hot start, and by the end of the game, Sean Payton said, in his post-game news conference, I think, Russell, I've got to do a better job. We've got to do a better job having personnel lined up. And then he said, Russell's got to be a lot quicker spitting the play out in the huddle, and maybe we need to evaluate how much we're putting in on offense each week. Like, that's a pretty damning comment in the heat of the moment after the game. And so, there's some positive signs from Russell Wilson, but there's some easy ones that they've left on the table each of the first 2 weeks. And on top of that, when you've got operational issues at home, when you're not dealing with a hostile crowd and you're not dealing with a particularly good secondary in Washington, get sacked 7 times, 5 in the second half. There's a long way to go before you look at it and say, like, okay, this is a quarterback and a coach quarterback pairing that's really on a good track.
Yeah, they've won Super Bowls. It's not like that you're dealing with inexperienced quarterback or inexperienced coach. It's right. I mean, it's unbelievable. Do you believe Russell Wilson's playing for his job this year? Is there a world where you can see Denver moving on from Russell Wilson if he doesn't have a good year this year?
Yeah, I think he's playing for his job this year. The caveat I would say to that is I don't know. I mean, it's not impossible. Maybe I'm too conservative on this. I mean, it's not impossible to get rid of him after this year from a financial standpoint, but it's $85 million dead cap hit if you cut him pre-June 1. And if you post-June 1 him, it's $39 million in 24 and $46 million in 25 if you split it up between the 2 years. So like in that situation, you are either entirely blowing up your cap next year or you're going to a rookie quarterback, but you're playing a rookie quarterback, a